tell us about yourself and the history of your family?
Well, I was a single mother and I raised two children, a son and a daughter, and they're both deceased. My complete family is deceased. I am the last living relative on my mother for my mother and my father. I moved here in 1964, I think it was.
Wow. 1964 into Cleveland, Ohio?
East Cleveland.
Wow, I bet the city has changed a lot since then. Can you tell us what
Yes.
it was like in East Cleveland in 64?
Well, the people were a lot different because everybody owned their homes and everything. And we moved in, the whites moved out. So, but I mean, it was nice. The people were nice. It was two. I was the only. There's only two houses on the street. Is a one family. That's this one and the one across the street. But I liked the neighborhood because it was a dead end street, and I had a son, and I know it wouldn't be a lot of traffic. So that's why this is the first house she showed me, and the first I said, "This is what I want." She said, "Don't you want to see anything else?" I said, "No, this is what I want."
Now, moving into East Cleveland, did you come from Cleveland or were you from out of town?
No, I came from out of town from Michigan. My husband was in the service.
Mm-hmm.
Then I moved to Cleveland. And then while I was there, I decided I want to buy a house. I wanted to buy a family house, but the family didn't want it. My sister didn't want any parts of it. So I decided, well, I'm buying me a house. So that's why I moved to East Cleveland. The lady was showing me the houses over here in East Cleveland, and I fell in love with it.
Wow, as opposed to moving into Cleveland.
Yes.
Nice, nice. Okay, what would be some of your fondest memories of East Cleveland?
Well, my fondest memory was the railroad tracks. We could see them. And my son and I would sit out there. This is the way I got him to do his work. Because if he didn't, when the trains moved around at 6 o'clock, he could not sit out there and see them. Because he knew the engineers and he knew. And then it got to a point where when the dining car would come along, I guess they was telling him about this little boy. And he would wave at me. Everybody in the dining car, the people and everything would be waving at him. Those were my funnest memories of
Okay,
East Cleveland, was with my son.
beautiful. In what ways has the city changed over time?
Well, I think what happened when the people were living here, they moved out and they rented the houses. And the people that moved in did not care about the house. I've heard them say, "Ain't my property. I don't care." So they tore up the houses. They just started moving in, and I mean, they just destroyed East Cleveland. But it was a type of people that was moving in that didn't care.
So when you moved in, and I'm just assuming this, when you moved in, it was mostly owners, and then
Yes,
when it started to change, a lot of renters started coming in. They
they
didn't care about the house.
nothing.
Wow. Do you think that there's any other factors that contributed to these changes?
No, it was more or less the people that moved in that didn't care.
Wow. Wow. Is there anything, any way you could describe these people as opposed to the people who were here?
Well, like I said, it was the younger people that had the children, and they just didn't care. They just let them run out in the streets. Like my children had a backyard.
Uh-huh.
And when the parent people here that own the houses, like I said, you don't play in the streets, come to my backyard and play. But then they started letting them play in the streets and throwing trash down, and it just became unbearable.
Oh my goodness. Oh my goodness.
But I'm not going anywhere because this is mine. And when I leave here, I'll be leaving for my last home, go to my last
This will
home.
be your final place here on
Yes,
earth, huh? You
yes.
love East Cleveland that much?
I love it. I love my house
Okay.
because
Okay.
I fixed it up. When I got it, it was like nothing.
Uh-huh.
And I said, well, this will be my starter. But once I got here and I liked the neighborhood and I liked East Cleveland, I said, this will be my beginning and my end.
So you've been here since 64. Can I ask you, how have your neighbors changed?
Well, after, I guess they were here maybe after about 10, but between 5 to 10 years, there was an older people and they decided what they were going to move into the apartments and they rented their houses out.
How about like some of your neighbors when you first were here? and everyone on the street, did they know each other? How was that like camaraderie? Was it like, you know, you see on the movies and they bring them a cake, welcome to the
Right,
neighborhood,
right.
and then you know your next door neighbor, you know the lady next to her. Does it still have that same type of?
Well, I was the kind of person, my father and mother raised me, that you didn't associate to with the neighbors. You had one or two neighbors that you associated with, and that was it.
Okay.
So I only had two that I knew that we associated with. The rest of them, I didn't bother with them.
Okay.
But that was from the way that I was raised.
Okay. Okay. Next question: how was race and racism impacted you personally?
Well, these are the ones that destroyed East Cleveland as far as I'm concerned. Because they didn't care. They were renting. They were renters.
And you pretty much answered the next question, and that will be, how has it impacted the city of East Cleveland? So far as homes, the renters,
Yes.
what other impact would the renters or race have on the impact of the city?
It was just, I don't know, they just didn't care. They were the type of people, they didn't care where they were living, because we were taught wherever you lived, you treated it as your home, whether you owned it or not. So that's where I trained my children to
Right.
do. And then the ones that was when they were here, my son would say, oh, you don't throw paper in front of my house or nowhere, you pick that up. But then after the renters come in, well, he was gone. So I would tell a couple of them, and they're like, they ignored me. So I would talk to the parents, and they didn't care. So I just left them alone and say, well, in front of my house, you do not throw paper in front of it. And they respected me for it.
Okay. Okay. How has inequality impacted you personally, and how has it impacted the city of East Cleveland?
Well, like I said, the houses, well, they were old houses in the beginning. And if you didn't come in and take care of them, sort of, like I said, I rebuilt this house from scratch. You know, when I would have my plumbing done, I'd say, take it all the way to the basement. And he said, well, why would you do that? I said, my father said, you don't put new stuff on old stuff. So I completely rebuilt this house. But they moved in and wouldn't do anything. Even the ones that was moving in after, just like, I got a forest out there in the backyard. I don't have not one tree on mine because I kept the bushes cut. Now these trees from this side of the house are overlapping to my house. So I have a forest that I don't control.
Thinking back to '64, and as you move through the years, how has race, or the change of race, not just here and not just with homes, but let's say school system, city government, fire department, EMS, how has that changed, and then how has that impacted the city?
Well, like when I first moved here, I could walk up to the corner and I would see a policeman. And the kids was calling them pigs. I said, don't call them that. I said, because one day we won't have them and you will be sorry. Now the police department is not, to me, it's not as huge as it used to be. And and when the people first started moving in, the renters, they were a different type. But then after that, I don't know if they sold the houses or what, because this house on the other side of me, when the girl moved in and she had water heaters and she was putting toilets in it, and I said, make sure you know who you're renting to, because they will destroy your property. And that's what happened. And I think she walked away from it.
We find that to be a lot of problem with the vacant and abandoned buildings.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Okay. How about the school system?
Well, I never knew too much about school system because I had nobody in the school system.
Okay. Earlier, I thought you said you had 2 kids.
Yeah, but when I came over here, they were like out of school.
Okay. Okay. Can you recollect a memory or an instance when the community fought for something?
Well, yeah, when we had Anwar in there, I mean, we were sort of getting things together. You know, we were having meetings and everything. And then after, I think he was trying to help the community. That's how he got into the problems that he was in. But when he was in, we worked. We were working to sort of straighten the city out. And then after that, nobody have come into, everybody's fell apart until we have this new mayor now. And he's working to try to get it together.
So you're saying we're getting more people working together, citizens working together to better our own community.
Yes, yes.
How have surrounding institutions and cities impacted the city of East Cleveland?
Well, for a while, I don't think they cared. But now that we have this new mayor, he's bringing in a lot of help, and other cities is coming in to help us out.
Sounds like you really are in favor of the new administration.
Oh,
versus
I
some of
am,
the
because,
old.
during the time that after Honor War went, I started having deaths in the family. I was running to Cincinnati. My brothers were sick. My son died in New York. So I had this where I wasn't as active as I had been. But now that I'm active, I see we are trying to get the city back together. And so far, he seems the one that's trying to get it together.
Okay. There's a longer question. What is your vision for the future of East Cleveland?
Well, if once we can get some of these old condemned houses down, and even if they're nothing but vacant lots and things, I think that's going to help our city a lot.
Just tearing them down, making a nice plot of land.
Right, and if somebody want to buy it and build, yes.
Okay. Can you tell me about the major issues that need addressing in order to better our neighborhood, our community, and our city?
Well,
major issues. I know we talked about renters and people caring.
Well, that's the main thing. We just gonna have to work together. It's gonna take a while because it's taken a long time to tear it to where the condition that it's in now. So it's gonna take a while, but we just have to fight. And the ones that's is not gonna live, we just gonna have to try to stick together and do the best that we can to keep it going. And it's gonna take time, but you can't give up.
Okay. What would you be prepared to do to participate in making East Cleveland better?
Well, I'm working with abandoned housing to try to get these abandoned houses, see who owns them, and if we can get any money to get them teared, because some of them is beyond repair. But get some money so they can pay for the tearing down of them. So I'm working with that organization now.
Tear down the houses?
Yeah, abandoned houses, yes.
How do you enjoy yourself in East Cleveland? What
I
do you
love
do
it.
in East Cleveland?
I have East Cleveland cable. I buy all of my gas in East Cleveland. I shop as much as I can in East Cleveland.
So you support local businesses?
Yes.
That's one of the pushes that we're striving for now.
Right.
Is to get more awareness that people support local businesses, and that not only that, but that locals of business also support the community.
Yes.
And hire local.
That's true. Right.
So that's a good thing. I'm glad you're with that. So you're involved in a lot of organizations.
Just that one
Just
right
the
now.
one?
Mm-hmm. But I go to all the meetings. All the meetings that they have. I'm in all of the meetings.
Beautiful. 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 Miss Norris, that is pretty much our questions. Is there anything else you'd like to talk about today?
No, well, I'm like I said, I want the people to get together to get our city back to where it used to be. It won't be, it's going to take time. But we all need to work together and work with the mayor. Because he's work with the mayor, he's trying, yes.
Okay. Okay, well, I'd like to thank you for your time.
Well, it's well appreciated, and like I say, I'm glad to help and do all I can.
We appreciate it, and I'm sure I'll see you around at some
Oh,
of the
you
meetings
will.
or some of the task force. You know about the Money Bomb Friday.
Oh, yes, over there, yes, I'll be there.
Yes,
Uh-huh,
ma'am.
right.
Okay. Do you have any pictures or any artifacts that you like to, for the record, to show? Nothing?
You mean pictures of, oh, yeah, I'd like to show some of my work, but I don't have those on hand where I can give them to you.
Yeah, I probably should have asked you if you had any, like, because what would be great, since we're doing this like an archive, to show some yesterday pictures. Like if you had some.
Well, where's the one of my son and my daughter?
And I love to hear the stories how when people first moved here, they used to go in the back and get the garbage.
Oh, yes, yes.
You know, and
Twice a week.
twice
A
a week.
week they collected garbage in the back, yes.
Wow, wow, and that's something they say you couldn't even drive through East Cleveland because the police would pull you over.
Oh, and oh yes, that was one of the things. Like when I moved from here, from Cleveland here, they said, "Well, we're not coming to see you." I said, "Why?" Because if you do over 60, I think it was 60 or 65, they're gonna give you a ticket. I said, "Then that's why you need to follow the rules and the regulation." And you would get a ticket because, like I said, they were out there and they would give you a ticket. So a lot of my friends said, "Well, I'm not coming to see you." I said, "Well, I don't care. I like it."
It sounds like back then you felt a little more safer in your. Is
Yes,
that
we
a
had
fair statement?
inspectors. If anything was wrong, the people didn't do their sidewalk. All you had to do was call. The inspector was here, and you got a citation.
Wow, wow. And today you don't feel that same level of.
No, no. The people next door, the garbage, and they sit it out. They're supposed to sit it out like on a Sunday evening. They sit it out Saturday at high noon. Then we got these big squirrels and cats. They come and dig into it and tear it up. Oh, it was a mess. The girl, I guess somebody from over there, oh, it was a mess. So I heard her tell a girl, get out there and clean up that mess. So I looked out the window and I said, well, do you need a bag? And she said, yes, ma'am. So I got her a bag and she was trying to put, and I said, I'm going to give you a sleeve for my paper. Use this and put that in there. And I said, why are you there? It was some plastic they said that they had put at the window because they had a broken. It was all across that street. Oh, it was awful. So when I said, why you're at it? I said, clean up that because that's in front of your house. And she did. She cleaned it up.
Wow, and how old was she?
She looked like she was about 10, 11.
That's good because I always hear that the youth today aren't as you can't talk to them the way you could talk to youth in past years.
Yes, yes. Well, it's a way that you can talk to them. You don't talk down to you don't talk up to them, you talk down to them. Because I said, sweetie, do you want me to give you a bag? Yes, ma'am. But I could have said, because I saw she's getting ready to sweep it across in that vacant, next to that vacant house. And I looked, I said, sweetie, did you need a bag? And she said, yes, ma'am. And I noticed when she was trying to put it in the bag, she was trying to do it with the broom. I said, here, let me show you. You can use this as a glove and put it in there. And she said, I thank you. But it's the way you approach the children. A lot of people don't approach them that way. Because
Yeah.
that's just like the little boy. I was teaching him how to cut my grass and everything and shovel my snow. Now he waited till after she got out there and cleaned this. Then he going to come and ask me, is there anything you want me to do? And I'm saying, why didn't you get out there and help your sister? And I said, no. Well, when? I said, when you see the grass growing again, then you come and knock on my door.
Wow, wow. We need more concerned citizens like yourself.
Yes, yes.
And to pitch in and work with the youth, work with City Hall,
Right,
work with the local businesses. We need that because we all need to come together and make this a great city again.
right. Because it's like my dry cleaning. I take it to that cleaners up there on Euclid. I mean, I do practically everything that I can to help.
Even grocery shopping?
Yes, I go to Save a Lot.
Oh yeah.
Hmm.
Now, do you find that challenging, or do you get basically everything you need?
Well, I'm not a big eater. I'm a healthy eater, so, and I don't eat meats and all of that, just fish, mostly chicken, and fresh vegetables. So I don't have a time. I don't have a problem with that.
Okay, okay. Because I know years ago we had Pick and Pay, and
Yes,
we had Super Value, so we had two
yes,
good
huge.
supermarkets.
Mm-hmm,
And
mm-hmm.
now we just have,
Well, I don't like the ones up there on Euclid, for some reason. I didn't like the way they treat you when you walk in there.
is that just that store, or are there other stores?
No, just that little grocery store up there, on Euclid. I never did years ago when they act like, that they didn't need your business, that you needed them. And I don't like for anybody, watch you or can't say hello and all of that to you. So I never did shop there.
And that brings me to another thought because I grew up in East Cleveland, and growing up, I know Rogers Super Value was owned by African Americans,
Yes.
and I think Pick and Pay was a chain.
Yeah.
And a
Hmm.
lot of the stores in the city were African American owned or majority owned.
Right.
And now that landscape has changed.
Yes, and they bring the foreigners in here, and I don't know.
Yeah, you can deal with that.
I can't deal with the foreigners.
Okay,
Nope, can't deal with that.
okay. Especially when they don't treat
When
you
they don't
right.
treat you right, it's act as if they. I know they need us. They need our money
Hmm.
because we can go anywhere over the city that we want to out of these clean. But they act. Let me know that you need my money
Right.
because otherwise I don't need you. I can go somewhere else. So I went up there a couple of times and I didn't like the way that they were treating. So I never go back. I never went back.
Wow. Okay. Okay. I guess that about complete our interview for today. Jenny Joy, do you have any questions? Anything you'd like to say? Yes.
I just want to say, if you had to do it all over again, what would you do differently?
You mean as far as living in East Cleveland?
Yes.
I still like East Cleveland. I like it because I don't know the section that I'm in. It's quieter, and I like the people. It was something about the people because we were at that time after the whites moved out. We were all African Americans, and I enjoyed. And then during that time, you walk in, you go to the grocery store, you say hello, how are you? Everybody respond. You don't get that anymore. People look at you, say, well, hello, like they don't, they see through you. This younger generation that's coming up. They're not as open as we were.
And how do you feel about the political scene now compared to 40 years ago? Did you notice that a lot of young people were involved in the political scene then? Were they more active compared to now?
Well, I was raised by my parents when became 18. I started voting. I registered to vote, got my social security and everything. And that's the way I taught my children. Once you become 18, you have to vote. A lot of people say, well, my vote don't count, but your vote do count, one way or the other. So I'm from that old generation where I listen and learn and I try to help other people the best I can. Some won't listen to you, so I leave those alone. The ones that listen to me, I talk to them.
How do you feel about the annual parade that's been Memorial Day weekend that they have in East Cleveland? Do you participate or have you had opportunity to go to see the annual
Well, I
parade?
did before I had all these deaths. And since then, I don't participate because my daughter only been dead a year. And so I'm still like in mourning over my family. But I am participating. I don't go to I will be going, but I'm getting back into the community that I have to see what's going and participate. But to lose all your family in 2.5 years, my sister was here, my two brothers in Cincinnati, my son in New York, and my daughter here. I lost them all within 2.5 year period of time.
Sorry.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah.
Also, I wanted to say two closing questions. What is the most used senior citizen building that you participate in activities in East Cleveland? And how many friends or relatives that you have that y'all get together and just shoot the breeze and talk?
Well, the most of them, I'm this kind of person. I never had a lot of friends. And I'm mostly what you would call a loner, but I like to go out every now and then. But I don't have a lot of people coming around me. I'm like that. A lot of people didn't like me. They said I thought I was better than anybody else. But I'm just that type of person. I have a very few close friends that I associate with. Now I'm getting out a little more than I did because I don't have no family, my sister to talk to or anybody. But I don't know. It's sometimes you're almost afraid of people because you think you trust them, then they can come into your house, and next thing you know, they're breaking in because they broke into my house. But I have security there.
What about the senior citizen buildings around East Cleveland? Which one do you use the
I go to
most?
Helen S. Brown. I go up there, but like I said, I read a lot. I can entertain myself here at the house by myself,
Okay.
and that's just the way I am. But when the meetings and things, I'll go to them. I only have one friend. That's the lady up on the corner. She have keys to my house, so if anything happens, she can come down. But I'm not the kind that like a lot. My kids was a little different than I was. They liked a lot of kids around it, but I never did.
And at the Helen S. Brown building, what do you like to do when you go to the Helen S. Brown building?
I only go there for meetings. I carried my aunt when I was keeping my aunt. I carried her up there, And I would go and visit her, you know, take her, and when they're having something, I'll go up there to it. And a lot of times, you know, I had fabrics and stuff that I would take and give to Helenese. I have donated a lot of stuff, fabrics and things, now that I'm not working, to them, and they appreciate that.
And I know you mentioned that you like designing and decorating. What was your fondest room that you decorated, or your fondest project that you've done for someone that's outside or within East Cleveland? The latest or your last project that you've done?
In East Cleveland? Oh, let me see. I didn't do a lot of work in East Cleveland.
Your house is beautiful. I can tell you spent a lot of time with this.
Yeah, I did. This was my focus point, my selling point.
Any one in East Cleveland home that you had an opportunity to do? That you...
She didn't live in East Cleveland. Not really.
No one you can just pinpoint?
No.
And closing question, with you doing such, have a taste and an eye for beautiful, unique decoration, have you passed on your gift to someone in East Cleveland, or are you willing to train?
Well, I had a friend of mine that she was a principal at the school, and she would send me children to come in and help me. But I never got in touch with anyone from Shaw High School that I could, you know, teach them how to do it. But I have, you know, tried to teach. But kids just don't want to, I don't know. They want to come, but they don't want to learn.
You wanted, if you had opportunity to reach the children at Shaw High School, what would be an ideal type of person? You want to teach them what?
Teach them how to make drapes.
Okay, that would be your focus?
That would be my focus point.
Okay.
How to sew and make drapes. Because I did take in dressmaking, but after I came when I moved back here, I went into working in the shops to learn how to make drapes, because I was a power machine. I know how to run power machine. So then that's when I moved over here, and then I saw they had this big basement. So I worked out of my basement for all these years.
We're gonna, if you don't mind, we're just going to take a beautiful shot of your drapery that you have. Across here, you can see the fine print.
Yes, yes.
This is what you say, this is your finest, or your display piece would be great.
Yes.
Okay.
Would be great. If you could just stand and give us a luxury design and just show us about it.
Uh-oh, I don't want to mess this up, will I?
Just hold it. You hold it in your other hand.
This too?
Yeah, it's long enough you can walk with it.
That way if you
Good thing I caught it before See, I listen.
if you wanted to comment on anything.
And then you can close the door if you want to and just comment on it.
Oh, yeah, I made this. I didn't like the way this door was situated. And what I did was made it so when it's closed in, it looks like it's one unit.
Oh, I like that. Okay. When you're inside.
Yeah, when you're inside, you don't know it's a door.
Okay. Here on this. I'm going to disconnect your headset.
Thanks.
Yeah, that's beautiful. Is gold one of your favorite colors?
Yes. Can't you
Once
tell?
I gave it away, huh?
Yeah.
I like the color scheme. But as an interior decorator, I'm sure you specialize.
And then when I moved in, these were 2 windows on each side of that fireplace up there. And I thought that was, to try to make a drape for it, you could. So what I did is had the frames blocked out, and I just put, those are door mirrors that I bought and had put up there.
Wow, so you can't even see the windows.
You can tell from the outside, but you can't see it on the inside.
Good job, good work. Was the fireplace always there?
Yes.
Wow. Okay. Still color coordinated. What about this cabinet? Did you put
Well, that was 2 windows up there too. I had those blocked out and had the drywall put in. And then once I bought that piece, I had that set up there. But it was 2 little windows over there too.
Okay. Okay, well, beautiful. We got a good shot. And there's Janie Joy. Put her in.
Well, Well, good, good, good.
There you go. I'm gonna go ahead and stop this. Then I'll disconnect.
Okay.
Jenny Joy, you wanna hold this?
And this is this gonna
Go ahead. All right. It's February 5th, 2013. I am Brandon King, Social Justice Institute, Case Western Reserve University. We are here in East Cleveland with Miss Patsy Norris, East Cleveland resident. I am the interviewer, and the kind Jenny Joy is the videographer. This is part 2 of our interview with Patsy Norris. We'd like to thank you again for taking the time to have us interview you. We did a lot in our first interview. We got a lot of good information, a lot of useful background on the city and what has taken place over the years. And we wanted to come back and interview you some more to kind of go into a little more depth, a little more richness in the documentary. Can you go back and tell us again where you're from and your name?
You mean where I was born?
Yes.
I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee. November the 1st, 1924.
Can you tell us a little bit about yourself and your family, maybe the history of your family?
Well, I have a mother, my mother and my father, and she had 6 kids. They had 5, 6 kids.
So you're one of 6.
Wait a minute. No, one of 5. 2 sisters, and me, and 3 brothers.
And you're from Knoxville, Tennessee.
Yeah. Then I moved to Cincinnati, Ohio.
And roughly how old were you when you moved to Cincinnati?
I was 12.
12. And then from Cincinnati to Cleveland?
Yes.
Okay. Can you tell us a little bit about that? What brought you to Cleveland?
Well, my mother remarried, and she moved to Cleveland. And my oldest brother, he died, so he wanted me to come and be with my mother. So that's why I moved to Cleveland, because she was here.
Okay, okay. Now, so originally your whole family left Knoxville, Tennessee to go to Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm.
And then while you were in Cincinnati, your mother came to Cleveland?
Yeah.
Or your whole family came to
No,
Cleveland?
just my mother. She remarried, and she moved to Cleveland.
Okay, okay. Cleveland or East Cleveland?
Cleveland.
So when you first came up here, you, in essence, went to Cleveland?
Yeah.
Okay. And when you first came to the Cleveland area, can you tell us anything about East Cleveland as you knew it, but were living in Cleveland?
Well, what happened, I remarried, and I moved to Detroit, Michigan. I moved to Michigan because my husband was stationed there. Then when I left him, I came back to Cleveland. I moved back to Cleveland. Then this is when I bought this house. I lived in Cleveland, and I bought this house in East Cleveland. And I've been in East Cleveland ever since.
Okay, okay. So that I understand you, you left Cincinnati,
Mm-hmm.
to come to Cleveland to be with your mother.
Right,
And then you were married in Cleveland or Cincinnati?
in Cleveland.
Okay, and then your second marriage took you to Detroit.
Right.
Great. And then you came back to East Cleveland.
Cleveland. Cleveland.
Cleveland.
And then I decided I wanted to buy a house. So then I looked in East Cleveland. And
East Cleveland.
I don't know, it was something about the neighborhood. I didn't want to, it was something about, I didn't like Cleveland. I didn't like the way the people were in Cleveland. So then I decided, when the real estate woman came, she brought me over to East Cleveland. This is the first house I saw. And I liked, because it was a dead-end street. I had a son. And I just liked the neighborhood. It was a dead-end street. It was a little house and everything. So that's why I chose East Cleveland.
Okay, okay. First house you saw.
It was this one, yes.
There was something about Cleveland you did not like. Can you
Right.
tell us a little bit, maybe, what made East Cleveland more appealing than Cleveland at that particular time?
Well, I didn't like the way the people, they weren't raised the way I was raised. And I didn't like the way their kids were. They were kind of wild. We were always raised quiet, and my mother was the kind of person that she taking care of us. And I didn't like the way the people in East Cleveland in Cleveland was raising their kids. So when I came here, I figured this was a small community. I liked the street because it was a dead-end street. And it wasn't, at that time, I didn't know it was as many 2-story houses as it was here. But and it was a dead-end street, so I know it wouldn't be a lot of traffic with the kids, with me raising the kids growing in and out. And it was quiet. It seemed to be much quiet.
Okay. Okay, so you like that, the quiet sense of community.
Yes, yes.
Is there anything else you could tell us about East Cleveland before you moved into it? Maybe kind of tricky to remember.
No, I never. This was the first time I had been over to East Cleveland when she bought me. And I just liked it because it was a mixture of, the both races. And I liked that. That's what I liked about it also.
Had you heard any, stories or tales about East Cleveland? Anybody talk about East Cleveland, it was a suburb looked up to or anything like that?
No, because I was telling when the real estate, I was talking to the real estate person, I was telling her I wanted a nice, quiet neighborhood to raise my children. And this is the first place she bought me. And I just fell in love with the street. It was a dead-end street. And I noticed I didn't see a lot of kids here. It was something that's about in the house that I liked. It was like the little house I used to draw when I saw it from the outside. And I fell in love with the house in the street.
Okay.
And it was, this time it wasn't, it was more or less, it was still a mixed neighborhood. And it wasn't a lot of children. And I liked that also.
What year would you say that was?
That was in 64.
Wow, 1964. Must have been a good year. 64. Tell us what particularly this street looked like in 64.
Well, it was, and I tell you another thing what I liked about it. I liked the train because my son was into these little trains. And I liked those railroad trains coming there. That. And it was the people, like it was a mixed neighborhood, but they were older people. And I liked that about it because I didn't want to be involved with a lot of kids.
Okay. So thinking back to the earliest 64, mixed neighborhood, you liked the train. What were the people like?
Well, I'm the kind, I don't associate with a lot of people. So I wasn't the kind that to go out and meet people. I was into my family and me, and that's the way it was.
Okay. So when you moved here, it was you, your son,
And my daughter.
so the three of you moved to East Cleveland. Okay. Okay. You mind if I asked at this point, where's your mom at?
Well, she was in Cleveland.
She was still in Cleveland.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. Just a question on the sheet. What are your fondest memories of East Cleveland?
Mostly my children and my daughter. She went to Hearing Road Hospital for nursing. I mean, that's where she got her training at Hearing Road Hospital. And it was just like it was a thing where it was just me and my family. Because I wasn't the one, I don't like a lot of people around me. But it was just me and my family, and people left me alone.
So would you say you had a close-knit family?
Yes.
I know now you're pretty active in the city and you're a concerned citizen with the different organizations that you belong to. Can you tell us your involvement or not involvement in 64?
Well, in 64, I wasn't too involved because I was trying to get my life together. And then I was opening up my businesses making custom drapes. So I was into my family, into my businesses that I was starting. So I didn't have a lot of time to meet a lot of people and everything.
Okay. So far as the government, there weren't any major issues going on with the city or?
Not at that time because we had a commissioner at that time. So I wasn't into it until later on in the years. I say around, when did we start? I think it was around, was it the 70s, in the middle of the 70s? It was around, I would say around the 80s is when we became more involved into, yes, it was around the 80s.
Around the 80s?
Mm-hmm.
Let's see, it says here you had a son and a daughter, and they both lived here with you.
Yeah.
You want to tell us anything about your kids?
Well, she was, my son, well, he was he was like a little while and everything, but my daughter, she had graduated from school from Michigan, and she went into nursing school as a nurse, and then she had her training at here in Road Hospital. So I mean, she was more or less working, and he was more or less like a little while at the time. So and well, he was going to Patrick Henry, and then when he moved over here, he just didn't want to go to school, so he didn't go to school. So he, at the age of 17, he went to New York. He wanted to go to New York, and that's where he went, to New York.
New York.
Hmm.
Just going out on his own? Or
Yeah, he just went on his own. Hmm.
That's pretty courageous.
Well, you know what? I remember reading a story at one time when I was about 12 years old about this woman had this son, and she couldn't understand the way he was. So when, well, he got into some trouble and they executed him, and she had her history ran down. She couldn't understand the way that he was acting because he acted like nobody she knew. So they ran the history down as far as they could. Nobody in the family on her side and her father and her husband's side acted like this boy acted. So then she still wasn't satisfied. So at the time that they executed him, a baby was born. And when they went down to this guy that was killed, he acted the same way her son acted. So that's when I found out the word of reincarnation. So my son always acted different. I mean, I taught him, I love him, but it was something about him that he was just different. He was, I mean, he loved me as a mother, but it was some things in him that he did, and nobody in my family did it. So I'm figuring this is the way that he was, because he used to talk about when he was a little boy that he wanted to go to a big city. And I could never understand. So I reverted back to when I read about this story, and I'm saying this is what happened to him at the time he was died. So so that's why.
Yeah, a little bit of his father.
No.
I believe we stopped. We were talking about your son, and you were relating the story of this spirit that just got into him. So you said that he wasn't like his father. He was just like the spirit.
It was just like he was like somewhat, like he had been here before, like he was somebody else. He wasn't like his father. He would just be talking, talk that I didn't understand about it. So I related back to the way this woman was, and I just tried to talk to him and understand what he was saying.
How did New York work out for him?
Oh, he did fine for a while when he went up there, but at the age of 17, I figured that was a little bit too much for him. But he got together, and he lived up there. He didn't pass until he was 61.
Okay.
So he had a good life for a while.
Okay. Now, you were telling us about your marriage. You were married here and then in Detroit?
No, I married here, and then we moved to Detroit because he was in the service.
Got you. Now, when you moved into East Cleveland, I understand you were pretty much a family-oriented. Can you tell us race relations, kids? Like, I know you said your kid liked the train. When he would go view the train, or he would hang out in the street, how would your neighbors relate, not necessarily just to him, but to you as a family and colored people?
Well, his friends, more or less, was the ones that he knew when he was in Cleveland. So they would come over to see him, because it was really no kids on the street. Well, that was around his age.
Would that be the same for your daughter?
Right, well, she was into, she was going to school, going to nursing school at the time. So her friends was in Cleveland, because there was nobody around here that lived here that was her age.
Okay. Now, your drapery business, but what year did you start that?
I started that in 59.
So you actually started that in Cleveland.
Yeah. No. Well, I was doing dressmaking at the time, but when I went into the drapery business, I had moved here, and that's when I set my basement up for my business.
Okay. Okay. Now, primarily when you were doing business, was it in East Cleveland or just in the Cleveland area?
Well, it was more or less in the Cleveland area because it wasn't too many people that I knew in East Cleveland.
Okay. Okay. So our next question, what are some of your fondest memories of East Cleveland?
I don't know. I just love East Cleveland. And I guess, well, at the time I was here, we had a little small community stores, like a meat place was up there. Then we had a bank that was up there. And I liked it because, like I said, I don't communicate with a lot of people, and I liked it because the people left me alone, and I left them alone. And I could walk up to the street, walk up to the corner, and everybody would speak. Now, we would speak and everything, but it wasn't the kind that I would come to their house or they would come to my house, because I wasn't raised. That's the way I was raised. We didn't communicate with each other. We were like a family thing when we were raised. So that's the way I wanted to raise my kids, as a family thing. All of my friends, my father would say, get your friends on the outside of where you live. Don't have them in the community where you live. And that's the way that I raised them.
I got a good question for you. 64. Was Hayden straight down in 64?
Mm-hmm.
What year did they turn that?
You mean at the end?
Didn't they alter Hayden?
You know, we had some, I call it like a platform that was in the street up there on the corner. No, it was always ran from Euclid all the way down to, I guess that's St. Clair. Hayden go all
Road to St. Clair. But I understand at one point they changed it so that it wouldn't go straight. It's got that, you know, when you get over there to Silverman's, it does that little hook over there.
Well, I don't know when now that I don't know too much.
Can you tell us a little more about Hayden? Because I understand it was more vibrant shops, and you were just alluding to the fact that you could walk.
Right, because we had bank, and then we had we had a meat, what we call a butcher shop. It was a lot of little stores on Hayden that you could go to and shop at.
And that gave you a feeling that, how does that change from now?
Well, everything just moved away. I guess it was like that for maybe 10 years. And then things began to change. The little mom and pop stores, they moved away and everything. The bank, it closed up. So, and it just went into, like, I guess you would say, like Cleveland was. I mean, they moved away and everything moved up to Euclid at that time. We didn't have too many little shops around here in the neighborhood at that time.
So when you initially moved to Hayden, was vibrant, a lot of little shops, and then they moved to Euclid Avenue, still in East Cleveland.
Right.
Okay. And that's perfect, because it says here, in what ways has the city changed over time? What do you think contributed to those changes, to the shops, let's say, moving to Euclid?
I don't know. I think it was more or less the people. Because the neighborhood at that time was more or less older people. And then when the younger people come in, that's when things started changing.
You think that the older people utilize the shops more, or the younger people?
Yeah, they sort of wanted to like the grocery stores. They didn't like the little shops and things. So I think with the younger people moving in, then the older people were moving out. So I think that's why it changed a little bit. Maybe the owners, I guess it was they didn't like the new neighborhood that was moving in, and I guess they moved away because maybe they weren't getting the business. They weren't used to this kind of business. See, and I was used to neighborhood stores and things.
And how did that make you feel when the store started leaving?
Well, not too good, but then when they opened up Euclid, I could still go to Euclid and shop.
You could still walk.
I could still walk.
So it was a sense of community.
Right. I was losing a little of the togetherness, and even the bank closed down and everything. So it was like changing over to like the city life.
Okay. Are there any other things that you would say contributed to the changing of the city of East Cleveland?
The people that was moving in.
How did they differ from the people that were here or that were moving out?
Well, this only happened, say, within a lot of the people that had these houses. Well, they lived in them, but they were the ones that moved here. They were, after, I don't know, I guess it became too much. They were at the retiring age, and at first they leased them out for people to rent. They rent them out to renters. And, sometimes people, when they move into your property, they don't take care of it because it's not theirs. So that's when the property started going down.
When they started bringing in more
Renters. Mm-hmm.
Can you tell us something about the renters and how you think they would effectuate the change?
Well, I've heard people say, well, it's not mine. So it's like my kids was taught, if you see people out in the street, see paper in the street, you pick it up. And I've heard them say, well, it's not mine. So they didn't, take care of the grass and this stuff, because first thing they would say, it's not mine. And they wouldn't pick up the paper. My kids was taught, my father taught me, wherever you live, whether you own it or not, that is your home and you take care of it. And these new people was moving in was young, and they didn't see it that way. So that's when the property began to go down.
So you think it was young and more of a mental state?
Right.
Did race play a role in that at all, you think? I mean, can you describe what the renters looked like?
Well, they were mostly younger people, and they were the type that they just didn't care. They weren't the kind that wanted to keep the property up because it wasn't their property. So they just didn't care. It was the younger people coming in that just didn't care.
Okay. The next question, how has racism impacted you personally, and how has it impacted the city of East Cleveland?
Like I said, the people that was moving in, they didn't care, and they just started destroying the property.
And those were the renters primarily that you're
Right.
speaking of in that.
Mm-hmm.
How would you feel racism impacted the city of East Cleveland?
Well, I don't know. Like I said, it was the older people was here and the younger people was coming in. I think it was more or less the age group that came in that destroyed the city, because the people here before, mostly all the people were older people.
Okay.
And then after they moved out, then this is when the younger people came in.
Okay.
After I'd say the people that lived here maybe about 15 or 20 years, the older people got too old, so they moved away and they rented it out. And when they rented it out to younger people, that's when that was a difference and things started changing.
Okay.
Because they didn't care.
Now, and this would be around what year, would you say?
I would say it started, let's see, I moved here 60, 70. Had to be around 80s.
Around the 80s?
Yeah, the 80s.
Now, just as a base of reference, 64, what would you say the population in East Cleveland looked like? Let's say white, black, other. What would you say it looked like? You can even use like a percent.
Well, when it started, let's see, I would say around, I moved here 64, around 75. That's when it went from, because it was most, like I said, East Cleveland was older white people. So when they moved out, and then when I would say like around the middle of the 80s and the last of the 80s, that's when it had completely changed over.
Okay. And when you say completely changed over, you're talking from white to black, basically?
No, I'm thinking that the blacks had moved out, the ones that had bought back in when I moved in the 64s, and a lot of the younger people was coming in.
Okay, so you're saying in 64, a lot of black people in East Cleveland?
Yeah. No, not too many. We just began to come in 64.
In 64.
Mm-hmm.
Now, when you're saying the older people were leaving, this would include white and black people. Is that what you're saying?
No, it was around after the mostly the blacks bought in the houses up until that time. Mostly it was completely more or less black. All the whites were just about gone. Around that, well, I'd say around the 70s.
Around the 70s.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Or maybe, yeah, around the 70s. Because then they stayed. Then when they sold, they moved to senior citizens and they rented the houses out to renters, and that's when it really started. I would say that would happen around the 80s when it was really rented out to the renters, and that's when the city started going down. Property started tearing up the property and stuff.
Okay. Now on this, and you've been in the same house. I know you said you didn't like socialize with a lot of your neighbors, but did you talk to anyone while you were here, so far as before they left?
Oh yeah, well I got one neighbor up on the corner. Well, she moved in after I did, so she's still here. And then I had a neighbor that was next door that I associated, I'd say, with about 3 or 4 of them that was on the street.
And 2 of them are still here?
One is still here, the one up on the corner.
Okay. How about the other 2?
Oh, they're gone. Well, they've been gone. Mm-hmm.
Now, when they moved out, did they bring in the renters as well?
Yeah, well, the one across the street, yes, and the Jacksons, the 2 houses on the other side of me, they rented those out, and like I said, they had destroyed the little house across the street. She moved and she rented it out, and they just started destroying the property.
Wow. Okay. Part of what we're looking at is in this documentary is also to talk about race relations and how it has impacted you personally and then the city in general. So, is there anything else you can tell us about racism in the city of East Cleveland over the years?
Oh, I know. I'll tell you one thing. When I first moved out here, every time you could walk up to the corner, we had a lot of the policemen here. So the city, as far as that, was good. But I don't know. It seemed to, how can I say this? When the younger generation started moving in, it was like they just didn't care. And then once the property was destroyed and they started selling it, they were selling it to, like I said, to the people just they weren't raised right. They just didn't care. You know, And like, you know, the people that moved next door when this young girl bought the house, and she spent a lot of money in it. And I told her, I said, you better watch who you put into there. But she didn't live there. She was just buying it for income property. And I would say in a year's time, they had destroyed that house. Because she put in new cabinets, she put in new toilets, water tank. I mean, she's really spent a lot of money. And they destroyed it. They really did. I just couldn't believe. I went over there and they had holes in the floors. Trying to figure out how you have holes in wooden floor. People just didn't care.
Wow, that's terrible. Now you were saying that the police back in '64 and in those days, you'd walk and they'd see you. And how were the police? How did they?
Well, they were nice.
Yeah.
They were nice.
To all residents.
Right.
Okay.
Because I know it's the time I had carpet put down. My son was here. Well, we don't use the front door. We always have used the side door. So he let him put the carpet in to the door where I couldn't get in. And he wasn't here. So I told him, I said, why did you let them put the carpet all the way up to the door? He said, well, we don't go into the front door anyway. I said, yeah, but we have to use it as an exit. So it was a police up on the corner, and I told him, I said, well, I can't get into my house. I said, I guess my son had him to put the carpet down. And so he came, he came to the door, and he just taken his foot and just pushed the door in. He said, you see how easy I got in? He said, people can get in the same way. So he was real nice. So then that's when I started putting security doors up.
And we talked a little bit about racism. Now we want to talk a little bit about inequality. How has inequality impacted you personally, and how has it impacted the city of East Cleveland?
Well, they all moved away, and like I say, I still love East Cleveland, and I love my house. I got it fixed like I wanted it, and I said, I'm just not going to leave. And that's why I'm still here.
Okay.
Because I still love East Cleveland.
How about inequality in the city?
Well, at first they had a hard time. I think now I see more improvement since we had this new mayor than I have in years. So I think that we are trying to get the city together. At least the mayor is.
I think the mayor's on the right track.
Yeah, it's just the other people that don't want to cooperate with him.
It just dawned on me. You were telling me about your friends that were on the street and how some of them moved and then rented the houses, and particularly the one next to you, and she had holes in the floor. Now, you said she sunk a lot of money into the house, and then the renters just destroyed the house. So she was, I'm guessing, like an absentee landlord. Like
Yeah, that's what she was, an absentee landlord.
And how do you think that affected the city, like with other properties around the city? You think that happened a lot? Or?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And why do you think that was?
I don't know. I guess they figured that they could make money from it. But I'm like this, if you don't come in and watch your property or come in and inspect it and just buy it and leave it there for them to take care of it, this is why the property went down. Because once you bought it and fixed it up, that was the end. But you know, when you got property, if you don't go in, that's just like when you live in government, in these apartment buildings. They come in ever so often and inspect. And if anything is wrong, you are responsible. But when they bought these apartments and things, they didn't come and inspect and take care of it like they were supposed to. Because some things you just don't trust people. You have to take care of yourself. And I tried to tell her, I said, well, you better come in and watch your property. I said, and watch who you put in there.
Let me ask you this. So after they moved out, did she come back and restore the property? Did she just...
After it just messed up, I think she just gave up on it.
Wow.
And that's why it's sitting over there empty now.
And you think that happened throughout the city? People
Right. They just walked away from it.
Let's go on to some more brighter moments, I guess.
Yeah.
Can you recollect a memory or an instance when the community fought for something?
I'm the only one that ever fought for anything or ever got involved in anything. The rest of the people didn't. Because when we started having the meetings and when we got the mayors and the council people, I had a girlfriend. Well, she didn't live over here. She lived in East Cleveland, but farther up. And she said, it's not going to work. She said, so I voted against it. We voted against it. But anyway, because she said the city isn't big enough and there's not enough money coming in, she says, and it's just not going to work. But they wanted, this is what they wanted, and this is what they got. And ever since then, it's just been a mess.
In what year would you say you started getting active in community and government?
When was that we had our first? It had to be around, let's see, around was it the 70s or somewhere within the last part of the 70s, because that's when we had commissioners up until then.
And that's when you started getting active in...
Yeah, when she started becoming active and I got active with her.
Okay. And how would you say it has changed from, say, the commissioner type to the mayoral type?
Well, to me, I could go call them and I would always get something done, just like the bushes and things with the railroad track. And they would get it done, but then after they got in, it was just like they said it was the railroad, they was in control, and I could never get anything done.
Now when you say they, you mean mayor type versus commission type, or do you mean...
They just didn't, like the commissioners, you could call them, they would get it done. When the mayors and the council person come in, you call the council person, and they would put it on somebody else's, like the railroad tracks. She said that was their up to them to keep the bushes and the things cut down. And like I said, from the time I had been here, you called the commissioners, and they would come down and keep the bushes and the things clear where you could see the trains.
African American?
Now that part I don't know. I think us during that time, that was like in the 60s. I don't know. Now that part I really don't know.
Okay. But you wouldn't say, or would you say, that race had anything to do with that in running the government and getting stuff done? Because it almost seems like under the commissioner type of government, things were getting done.
Right. And when the mayor and the council people come in, things wasn't getting done.
Okay. How have the surrounding institutions and cities impacted the city of East Cleveland?
And I noticed a lot of things when a lot of our business people came in to run the business. They just didn't, I don't know, they didn't take care of the business like they were supposed to. I mean, it was like they would buy it and put people in there to run it. And you know how some people are, if you just don't stand over and watch them, they just don't take care of your business. And that's what happened to a lot of us when they got their business. Then they left people in there to take care of it, and they just didn't take care of it.
So it almost sounds like, and I don't want to put like words in your mouth, but it almost sounds like commissioner to mayor, and then business owner to another business owner kind of?
It was just like people, when you get these business, they put other people in charge, and if you don't watch over your business, they don't take care of it like it's theirs, because first thing they say, it's not my business. Because I know a lot of times I like to work. I had some girls that I worked when I was working out to find out how to put the draperies together, and they worked beside me. Well, I work late at night or early in the morning. So when I would leave her down there to go upstairs, and when I go back, it's like she only did 30 minutes worth of work, and I've been gone for 2 hours. So like I told her, I said, well, you know what? I worked beside you when we were working for the white man or the white shop. And I said, you did good work. I said, do you mean to tell me I got to stand over you for you to work for me? And I says, no. I said, I'm going to pay you for these 2 hours and go. So I said, well, let me do it myself. Because they just don't want to work for you unless you stand over them or watch them. So that's why the majority of my work, I did myself. Because if I work late at night and I got to stand and watch you, be with you, and you can't do the same amount of work you did when I worked for you at the shop, then I don't need you. So it seems as if a lot of times our people don't want to work for us. They will try to use you if they can. And I think that was wrong. See, I wasn't raised that way. So that's why a lot of these business, it failed, because they left people in there to take care of it. And they don't care nothing about your business. They figure, well, you're making money and I'm not making anything. And that's not the way, to me, I was raised in what life is all about.
Almost like your analogy of the renters and the people coming in and renting, not taking care of the property.
Right.
Not looking out for the best interest of the business.
Right.
You don't mind me asking, where did you pick up your drapery skills?
Well, I don't know. When I was a little girl, I just started making doll clothes. And I started that. Then I went into the dressmaking. And then when me and my husband, when we separated, I didn't want to go back into that business because it wasn't enough to keep a family and 2 kids together. So I worked in some drapery shops, because at that time, a lot of us was getting into the drapery business. So I worked in the shop to learn how to put it together. And that's the way that I learned. But it was something about sewing I've always, something that was in me.
So you started out sewing little doll babies and just playing with the needle and thread, and over the years, and then finally you got into drapery.
It was something. I went into dressmaking first.
Dressmaking.
Yeah. So I went to New York and worked in some dress factories to learn how to put it together.
Ah. Okay, so now the New York thing is starting to sound a little different now. Okay, so you actually stayed in New York.
Yes.
You want to tell us a little bit about that?
Well, I went to New York to stay. I had some aunts up there. And I went up there because first when my mother was married, and he had a cousin that came in here that had went to college and was taking tailoring. So he came to Cleveland to work in a tailoring shop to learn how to put it together. So that's why I learned, if you ever want to do something, you have to go into a shop where they make it and do it that way. And that's how I learned to do it. Okay. So I went there and I did the dressmaking. I came out, I did that. So when I remarried, came back, drapery was running in Cleveland, so I worked in a shop for about a year to learn how to put it together. And then I got out on my own.
Okay. And over this period between New York and Cleveland, did you have a family? Did you have kids at that point? Or
Well, I only had my daughter.
Okay, so your son didn't live with you in New York?
No.
Just your daughter?
Daughter.
Okay, now I understand you were married twice?
Right.
You want to tell us anything about your first marriage, or where you were? Were you in Cleveland, New York?
No, I was in Cincinnati.
Cincinnati. So from Knoxville to Cincinnati, wind up getting married in Cincinnati. Then you come to Cleveland.
No, I went to, well, I did go to New York, and then I went back to Cincinnati. And from then, I came to Cleveland. And I lived in Cleveland, then I moved to Michigan.
Second marriage, Michigan.
Yeah, back to Cleveland.
First marriage, Cincinnati.
Right.
Okay, okay. So the dressmaking, drapery, and how did you determine drapery was where you wanted to?
Because I know in order for dressmaking, that's not enough money to take care of a family. And I'd had to do something where I could make more money. So I came for summer. I came down this summer, and then my daughter, that she met this girl when she was going to school here before we moved to Michigan. Her mother had opened up a drapery shop, and I had talked to her about a job. Then when I went back, I was able to work for her. But she wasn't learning me anything. I wasn't getting what I wanted to, so then I went into a drapery shop downtown, and that's how I learned to put it together.
Okay. From our last interview, you mentioned Mayor Arnold.
Yeah, I worked with him.
You worked with the Mayor Arnold?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, okay. And how would you, could you tell us anything about your experience with Mayor Arnold or him in relation to some of the other mayors?
Well, to me, he was the best so far. With this one, with him, the one that we have now. But I think where his problem was, he wanted to do a little more for the city, which he was trying, and he just got mixed up with the wrong people. But he was good. He was good.
Okay. I have a note here, too, to ask you about more memorable things in East Cleveland. Anything else?
Well, I remember when they gave what I guess you would say his inauguration, and he had some people to come over from Africa, and that was a wonderful thing. It was beautiful.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was really nice. Really nice.
Okay. Okay. Costumes.
Yes.
Heritage.
Right. They brought some of those away. It was beautiful.
Let's see. Race relations keep coming up here. Let's see if we have another question on here. What is your vision for the future of East Cleveland? Tell me about major issues that need addressing in order to better our neighborhood, community, and city.
Well, I think he's making a good start because all these houses, like they were saying, they keep tearing them down and there's empty spaces. I'd rather see the empty spaces than see some of these houses because some of them need to go. They're beyond repairing and trying to fix up.
Okay. What other changes do you think we have to make in East Cleveland, or where do you think we can get better?
Well, like I say, I mean, it's some of the people that we're letting come into the city, well, which you can't stop that. Because if it's, you can't say with the people, I don't know. It's just, I just don't like the people that's moving in, which you can't help it. Because they're the ones that's never worked and never had jobs, and they just don't know how to take care of houses in a community. And until we can get rid of some of those and don't let too many of those coming in, I don't think we're going to ever do any better. I hate to say that, but that's just the way it is. I mean, I have lived where I was considered poor, but then we were taught wherever you live, you take care of your community and you take care of it. And these people, like I say, it's one generation after the other that just don't care. That's why our schools are going down the way that they are. the kids and the parents don't teach the kids, you know, they're too busy trying to get their lives together. You have to really, to raise a kid and raise it right, it starts from when they're babies. And you give them the love, you give them the attention, you know. They have things to do around the house. And these kids, only thing they're doing, they're on the telephones and the computers. That's what it's all about. So they're not learning any home training at all. And until these parents and things start having these kids and let them raise themselves, I just don't know what's going to happen to our generation.
How about the store owners of today? I know we talked when you first moved here, and they were white store owners, and then they kind of we went to black store owners.
Oh no, blacks. What's these? No, these. What's these people that's coming in here now? It didn't really go to too many of the blacks. It brought these foreign people in here. It was taking over these stores. And they don't, like I said, I don't associate with them, because when I walk in to spend my money, you're going to treat me like I'm supposed to be treated. And they had an attitude that they thought that they were better than we were. And so I never associate with them. I'd go over into Cleveland to do my shopping, because I just don't associate with them, because they don't know how to treat you.
Versus the previous store.
Right.
I concur with that. If you're not being treated right, take my money.
You don't take my money. Mm-mm. Mm-mm.
You do any of your shopping here in East Cleveland?
Well, I go to Save a Lot. I like those. I go to the Save a Lot.
Up on Noble?
Yeah. And then they got the one out on Euclid near Lee.
Okay.
That's where I do my shopping.
Okay, let's see. Here's a question. We're going to put it on camera, but I think I know a little bit about the answer to this. What would you be prepared to do to participate in making East Cleveland better?
Well, just, you know, if I could talk to people, because I can get along with kids, with youngsters. So anything I could do to help them, I would be able. And then I used to go to Helen S. Brown. I take scraps and things up there to Helen S. Brown. And anything, you know, that I can do within that, I'm willing to help.
I know you're very active in NOAA, and you
Yep.
participate in community engagement and empowering the citizens. Yeah, pretty much.
Because I'm not going anywhere. So I like East Cleveland.
We pretty much covered all of these. And one question I still have here my finger on is race. Has race impacted you personally in any way? Any stories you could tell us about race and anything that's happened to you, say, here in Cleveland, or just in general, racism?
Well, you know what? I think they treat us the way that you treat them. If you're nice to people, they're nice to you. But it's some people that have an attitude when they go into stores. They go in with an attitude that, you know, you're supposed to wait on me and I can treat you like anyway, and then you're supposed to accept it. I don't know. Sometimes my people have attitudes that's just like the police. If you treat the police nice, he treats you nice. But if you go in and you know that's what he's there for, is to protect you and take care of you. But if you go in with an attitude, naturally they're going to have an attitude towards you. And that's the way that we were taught. If you want people to respect you, you respect them. So, and now these kids aren't taught this way, so they don't know how to act, but, you know, they just don't know how to act. I'm watching these kids, and it all comes from home training. And I just don't understand. They have these kids and they put them out there to raise themselves. And until these mothers start spending time with these kids and talking to these kids, I don't know what's going to happen to our race.
Well stated. Well stated. At this point, I want to bring Lady Red into the documentary and see if she has anything she'd like to ask.
I would like to say to you, you had mentioned about the homes in the neighborhood, and I wanted to say, when you first moved here, you mentioned there was a lot of homeowners, and after what year do you think the change switched? What year was it switched, or what decade do you think that change switched, and when it switched, the people who came in, you mentioned, do you think they were more working class, entrepreneurs, students?
Well, to me, when they first moved in, they were more seniors, older seniors. That replaced the farmer tenants was here.
Okay.
So then after they had lived for a while and it got a little bit too much, that's when a lot of them rented and they went into senior living, senior buildings and things and gave it up.
Okay. And also you did say that you were as an entrepreneur, you had your own business. Did you run into a lot of other people who had their own business on your street or close in your block?
Well, I had some friends that I knew that lived here. She was into the drapery business. But like I said, I don't. And then, I hate to say this, but I didn't get a lot of business from my people, and I gave them a good break. But they almost wanted me to do it for nothing. So mostly my business came from people outside of East Cleveland, and to the white people.
Did you run into other entrepreneurs like yourself that was similar, maybe small, medium, and large businesses?
Oh yes, because we had where it was an organization where we would meet, and we went to different cities and things for different meetings and things. Well, it was only me, and I got my girlfriend to go into it. So that's how I learned to venture out, by going to these meetings and things.
So is the organization still around?
Well, yeah, but I retired, so I don't belong to it anymore.
So in that particular organization, you got a chance to travel and see other business owners.
Mm-hmm.
But do you remember any in your neighborhood or your community that you communicate with, other entrepreneurs or business owners, small, medium, or large?
No, only this one girl, and she's passed. She's passed.
Okay. And so, as you mentioned before, the group that you used to be involved in is no longer existing.
Well, I retired, so not as far as I know, because I don't think we have any more. I don't know of any more people that's into the drapery business. We have that's in my race.
And when you mentioned about businesses, what was the largest business that you can remember that was in East Cleveland?
Well, let's see.
Was that car dealership?
Yeah, and then this guy who came in had this hotel. Was the hotel?
And what was the name of the hotel?
Oh, what was the name of that hotel?
Or the location?
It's up there in front of the police station, because I made drapes for them. I can't think of the name of it.
Not McCall.
Yeah.
McCall?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, still there.
But it wasn't under that ownership when I did the work for him. Uh-huh.
So do you remember the hotel when they first opened up, or?
It was already open. It was white, and they taken it over.
And you did drapery for them for the rooms or the lobby?
I did drapery. Well, they had a swimming pool. I did draperies down for the swimming pool.
How was that experience?
It wasn't too cool, because he tried to use me. I had to take him to court.
Oh, so you eventually ended up taking him to court.
Yeah.
And what was the last biggest business closed that was in the East Cleveland to your knowledge?
Well, we had the grocery store.
Which location?
Where was the Pick and Pay?
Pick and Pay was over there by Shaw. It's that Cyrus thing.
Right.
Value is where Walgreens is at.
Right.
So Pick and Pay, you mean Pick and Pay, the chain Pick and Pay
Mhm.
grocery store?
Mhm.
So that was a big, huge, normal grocery store in East Cleveland?
Mhm.
Was that only one in East Cleveland?
They had another one.
Rogers Super Value.
Yeah.
Where Walgreens is at.
Uh-huh.
Next to Key Bank.
And what was that up there by Nobles where Save-A-Lot is now? What was that one? It was the one up there. What was that? I don't think we had a Giant Eagles at that time. What was that up there?
That might have been a Pick and Pay.
Yeah, I think it was.
I think it was A&P. I think that was Pick and Pay.
Right.
So just guesstimate how many grocery stores that you have was in East Cleveland.
We had about, say, 1, 2. We had about 3. Because I know we had one Euclid, then we had 1, 2. I think we had 3 big ones.
And also, you had one of the leading car dealerships in East Cleveland also, correct?
Right.
Euclid and Superior.
Mm-hmm.
Do you remember purchasing a car from there, or having any family or friends purchasing a car from there?
I went up there, I think I was going to buy my station wagon for them, but they tried to give me the runaround, so I didn't buy it from them. But I know, where did my daughter get her car from? I think, didn't they have a dealership? Where'd she get her car from? But she had a Buick. It was another dealership down on Hayden.
So it was another big dealership in East Cleveland?
I'm trying to think if that was on East Cleveland, because it was over there off of.
So it was close to your home that she purchased the dealership.
Mhm.
It was a dealership close to your home.
I'm trying to.
And was that her first car, first experience?
Mm-hmm.
How was that for her? And did she end up getting the car?
Yeah, she got the car. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Were you pleased with it at that time?
No, because I didn't think she should have gotten it, but I was pleased with it. Mm-hmm.
Okay. Okay. So it was not far from your home, that dealership?
Right.
Okay. And also you mentioned, speaking about the children, you mentioned that your kids were, what age were your kids and what schools did they go to in East Cleveland?
Well, my daughter, she didn't go to school in East Cleveland. My son went to school. He went to, no, he didn't go to, they transferred him to Shaw, but he didn't go to Shaw.
So he was high school age?
Yeah.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
What high school was that did he start off in East Cleveland?
No, he went to Empire. They went to Empire. My daughter went to Empire. No, they really didn't go to East Cleveland school. They went to Cleveland school.
So you never had a direct connect with the East Cleveland school system?
No.
So with you never having a direct connect with them, you don't know how the system works?
No, not really.
What about, you mentioned that you did have neighbors who had children, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And at that point, were the children in your neighborhood, on your street, were they the same age?
No, they were younger.
They were younger.
Mm-hmm.
So were they attracted to your children since they were older?
Oh, let's see, Laura. Laura went to Shaw. Laura lived across the street in that little house over there. She went to Shaw. And her brother went to Shaw. But no, what I would do, like the kids, like in the summertime, I would have cookouts where I would give them hot dogs and things. Because, I mean, the kids that was on this end of the street, like I would say, I would give them maybe once a month or every other month, sometime in the summertime. I have the kids and give them little cookouts to try to keep the neighborhood going and everything.
Well, how was that experience having the other kids come over and give them cookouts?
Oh, that was good because they loved me.
Okay, so
And they would mind, and they would do things that I would tell them to do. I had good experience with the kids.
so with the cookouts, you drew other kids to you.
Yes.
Did you have your kids to go out? Is it a playground near here where they played? Was it a playground?
No, I didn't go away. I would just every so often have a little cookout for them. No, I didn't go with that.
And also on your street, when you first moved here, every home was filled or occupied.
Yes.
Now, what percentage is occupied in 2013?
3 out of 3. Let's see, 1, 2. It's only 3. It's about 3, 4 empties, and about three that have people living on this end of the street.
So it's half and half.
No. It's more empties than it is occupied.
When you say empty, does that mean that it could be potential occupancy for someone else to move in?
No, they're boarded up.
So they're all boarded up, meaning boarded up to be torn down or boarded up to be revised?
No, I think they boarded up to be torn down to keep people out of them.
Okay. When you mentioned about the political people in the change in the switchover to the present structure, did you ever see any of your political elected official to walk down your street, or you met personally and you were surprised, current or past? And you spoke highly of one of the mayors. What did he do either for you personally or your street that you would give him high honors?
Well, I gave him high honors because he was the first one that, because we had, the judge, we had 2 in there before him. He was the oldest one that seemed that he was concerned, and we was having meetings with him.
Concerned in what ways?
To try to get the city together, trying to get it structured and everything.
Okay. And my 2 closing questions are, in 2013, you're very active now. Is that something that you wish that you would have been active more in the past?
Well, I was very active with Mayor Onawa, so when the other ones come in, I just couldn't. They just didn't appeal to me as if they was trying to do anything for the city.
And if you had to do it all over again, living in East Cleveland, raising your kids, having the business, what would you say that something that is pressing on your heart, if you had a chance to change, what would you change?
I would have changed the type of people that was coming into East Cleveland. That would be my main thing, because they were very destructive.
So when you saw that destructiveness coming, has it lightened up at all, or is it still on the same path?
On the same path.
So in the last 1 or 2 decades, you've seen the same constant path of people?
Mm-hmm.
And you feel strongly that it can be changed with a more parental guidance.
Yes.
And would you say that with the parental guidance, does that come from more of the mother's not in a household or the father's not in a household?
I don't think that have anything to do with it. Only thing I would say, whoever's in the household, give their kid more training, more structure.
So that structure is very important.
Very important.
Very important. And with the children nowadays, what would you say to them, or what would you say was the biggest concern? More respect, more courtesy, more morals, characteristics?
All of those.
Is very important.
Very important.
because you mentioned in closing the TV and the computer, they're more involved in that industry now, and that's the big to do, the new technology.
Yes. That's
that-
what's raising the kids.
Okay, that's controlling and raising their thinking pattern.
Yes.
So where are the parents at?
They don't care. They're too busy taking care of their own selves and their own lives. They don't give the kids the time that they should give their kids. And the biggest thing with these kids is the parents. They don't give the kids enough time, enough training. Maybe some of them don't have it because they're having them young. And they probably don't have the training in order to train them.
And when you mentioned, you spoke more about your father, his discipline for you and your siblings, correct? So he was from, where was he raised?
They were Southerners, so was my mother. Mm-hmm.
Okay. So both of your parents were from South and then they moved north.
Right.
Okay. Both came up together.
No.
So they met.
They met in Knoxville, Tennessee.
Okay. But they're definitely both Southerner.
Yes.
Family Southerner structure.
Right.
Of the family.
Right.
Okay.
And see, that's the way that my mother, my mother and father were separated for a while, but my mother trained us, whereas it was a family thing. In the morning, she got up, she set our table and had our food ready for us because she had to go to work. Then in the evenings, we sit down and we had dinners together. We had things that we had to do around the house. She worked, but it was where she was over us. We had things, and if we didn't get them done, then we were punished. So that's the way I brought up my children, the way I was brought up. We sit down, we had family together, then on Fridays we discussed things, if anything that we did wrong that we wanted to bring before the family. This is the way the people should raise their kids, and they're not doing that anymore. You sit down, because like I would tell them, I'm not perfect. If you think something that I've done wrong, then you tell me about it, because I have room to make mistakes as well as you do.
And your children raised their children the same?
They never had any.
So your children never had any
children.
Okay. And you definitely believe that family is definitely very important.
Yes.
Family structure, that's where you get the structure
from. It don't have to be two parents. It's best to have two parents, but one parent, a mother can do just as well as two parents. Sometimes she can give the kids more attention because you don't have to share it with the husband.
You're a firm believer?
I'm a firm believer in that.
I want to thank you, and I want to redirect the questions back over to Mr. King.
As we close out, Ms. Norris, you did talk about some obstacles with your business, so far as your clients and how some of your clients looked at you from a business perspective. Were there any other obstacles in your entrepreneurship?
Well, the only I had with some people, like I tell them, before you come to me, have a price. Because, see, I know what my price is, and I know what I can do and give them a good price. So if they come to me with a price, not be almost like half of what they were charging, then someone would say, well, can't you give me a better price? That would make me angry. I said, do you think I had to pay for my fabric and my thing? You don't want me to make any money? Now, if I can do half of the price you got, why are you going to ask me to give you a better price? And see, that would make me angry. Very angry. Because they, like I would say, well, you want me to do it for nothing? So that's the only problem that I had with some people.
Okay. And that kind of separated who you did business with. And
that's right. And I would tell my customer, when you recommend me to them, make sure they know how I do my business. Because I say, because if they're going to try to come and sort of like saying, well, you're high, you're expensive, I don't want to be bothered with them. I say, so if you think it's the kind of person that I can't deal with, do not recommend them to me. Because that's mostly all my work was referral work.
And how long would you say you were in business?
Let's see, about 30 years.
It's a good run.
Mm-hmm.
In your business, you pass it on, sell it, or just?
No, because my daughter she didn't like it. So my son, when he was here, he would help me, but no, just gave it up.
Just gave it up.
Yeah, because I had to help my sister, and I spent a lot of time with her. And then I was tired anyway. I was tired.
Okay. Okay. I guess in closing, would you like to mention the names of your two children?
Well, my son's name was Rashawn,
Okay.
and my daughter's name was Loretta. And it's got a lot of Rashawns here. They've named so many people after him in Cleveland, too. It's a shame. They got Rashawn, Deshawn, Ashawn, but it was a very popular name.
Rashawn.
Mm-hmm.
Rashawn Norris.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And Loretta. Okay. Is there anything else you'd like to tell us?
No, I just want East Cleveland to because like I said, I'm here to stay, and I just want to try to get the city together and get people to cooperate and just have it looking like it was before.
Okay. Is there any particular reason you like NOAA? I usually see you at the NOAA events and.
Yeah, I like because they're doing more to try to get things together, to try to get people in line and everything. And I like the way they explain things to you. And I just like the setup because they're trying to get things going together too.
Positive.
Mm-hmm. I like the organization very well.
Okay, well, I guess that concludes for me. Ms. Norris, we'd like to thank you for your time today.
Yeah, and y'all caught me at the wrong time. I didn't know I was going to
No,
have
you
to do
look
it.
beautiful.
Just talking.
You look beautiful. It was marvelous.
Yeah, because I was early because he was in the service and run to the grocery store. And it says 8, it ain't 8 o'clock anymore. It said 80. I said, 80? It 8 o'clock in the morning. She said, oh yeah, it gets 120. I said, 120.
It didn't get that hot in Austin, but we did get up to 112 a few times.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Well, this was near Dallas, Texas, up in that part of it. The base was stationed. That was my first and last time. I said, it's too hot down here for me.
It's hot there.
Yeah.
I mean, this has been, winter was a shock. But, all this summer, all of my friends have been like, it's 105. And I'm like, it's 70.
So
You should come visit me.
Rub it in.
Well, they're going to make fun of me in February because it'll be 12 degrees and they'll be in the 70s. So.
Yeah, right.
Audio's good. Video's good. We are ready to go.
Okay. Are you ready?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Go.
Hi. How are you doing?
I'm fine.
This is Misty Lumine. I'm here with Brandon King for the Voicing in Action project. We're interviewing Mrs. Mariella Norris, also known as Patsy Norris. It is August 20th, 2013. So we're going to start with something pretty broad. Can you tell me about yourself and the history of your family?
Well, I had 3 brothers and 1 sister. My mother had 5 children. And I was born in Knoxville, Tennessee. Then at the age of 12, I moved to Cincinnati, Ohio. And that's where I went to school. Then after that, I married, and he was a soldier. So I traveled quite a bit. And then I decided I came to Cleveland. My mother moved to Cleveland, and I moved to Cleveland. And I've been here ever since. I like Cleveland.
Okay, what year were you born in?
1924.
And were you the oldest child? Or?
No, I'm the middle, between the two. It's 2 over and 2 younger than me.
Okay. And how old was your mom when you were born?
Oh, boy. I don't know. Really don't know. She was somewhere. She was around maybe 28 or 29, somewhere like that.
Okay. And do you remember the Great Depression?
Oh, yes.
Can you tell me a little about that?
Well, when I first started voting, when I turned 18, Roosevelt and Hoover was in. So naturally, I'm a Democrat because when I learned in school, I take a junior business. And they said the people that was poor was Democrats and the rich people were Republicans. So my mother was voting Republicans at the time. So I told her, I said, you're not a Republican, you are a Democrat because we are poor. So I started her in, and I voted when I was 18, and I voted for Democrat and been a Democrat ever since.
And you said you were poor when you were growing up. Like, what did that mean to you?
Well, I mean, we weren't without anything, but I would say we were just normal because we had plenty to eat, nice places to live, plenty of clothes, we know anything. But I would just say I'm poor when the average upper class, as you would say.
What do you remember about Knoxville?
Well, it was nice. It was, I never had a problem with segregation at that time because, you know, I was born in 24 during that time. But, and I had an aunt that worked for some very wealthy people. And I would go out there and play with the kids in the summer when my school was out. I would go. So I was just treated like I was one of them. So I never knew too much about it because when I would go shopping, we had to go and sit in the back of the bus. But usually the bus that we were on was from our neighborhood. So once we got into that. So, and I mean, I was always treated a little different because the people would come up to me and ask my mother, is that your daughter? I don't know. I guess I looked different at the time. And because I had a lot of hair and it was curly and I had funny eyes and everything. So, and they treated me, I never could tell the difference of segregation because they always treated me nice. And I would go with my aunt and play with the kids, and and I didn't feel it in a sense, but I knew it was there.
And did you live in a predominantly African American community?
Yes. But then I would go when I was out of school. I would go with she wasn't really my aunt, was my mother's friend, and I would play with the kids because they were very rich. Their grandfather was president of the steel mill, Riviera Pots and Pans. So they were very, very wealthy, and they treated me like I was just one of them.
What kind of games did you play?
Well, we played. I was the kind like I didn't play because I didn't want to get wet and sweat. I couldn't stand. I was a little girl that never got dirty. And I would take my games and we would play like Chinese checkers and dominoes and jacks and stuff like that. And I read a lot.
What kind of stuff did you read?
Well, I read like, my father he worked for the city and they call him engineer sanitation now, but we call them garbage men. And he worked in a very wealthy neighborhood, and they would bring me magazines. They saw him picking up some books one time, some magazines, and they asked him what was he doing. He said, well, my daughter liked to read because I was 12. And every month she went through the neighborhood and she got me all these like magazines like Cosmetology and Latest Journal, and he would bring them to me, and those are the magazines that I would look through and read. And my sister would help me reading because I was only 12, and so she would help me. But the more or less, I liked to look at the pictures.
And do you think that impacted your choice to become an interior designer?
Yes.
Great. So when you moved to Cincinnati, you were 12 years old. You said you started going to school then. Did you go to school before?
No, I went to school in Knoxville.
Okay. How was the school in Cincinnati different than the school in Knoxville?
Well, not too much of a difference because I went to a mixed school. First, when I went there, I went to a predominant African American school. Then when I went into high school, I went into a mixed school. So it was nice because they were going to a trade school. Well, I wanted to go to college, didn't make it, but I had to go to a high school, and it was mixed. It was very nice. They treated me no different than anybody else.
And so that was in the late 30s?
That was in the late 30s, the early 40s.
And so that was in Cincinnati as well?
Yeah.
And was there any tension between, was it just African American and white kids, or were there other ethnicities there?
No, I don't remember at that time. I don't think so.
Okay.
Uh-huh.
And do you remember if it was like Italians or Jewish people?
No,
or-
I don't remember them being at the school.
So, but was there tension?
What do you mean?
Like, was there any, like, you said that when you were younger you knew there was segregation, but you didn't really feel it. Like,
That was when I was in Knoxville.
right.
Mhm.
So in Cincinnati, did you feel like there was kind of a separateness, or like a
As far as living conditions, yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, when you moved to Cincinnati, you moved with your siblings and your parents?
I moved with, well, see what had happened when we were in Knoxville, my mother and father was separated. And I remember seeing him, I guess I was about 5 or 6 years old. He came through Knoxville. And I can remember him saying that he worked for the city and he was from Cincinnati, Ohio. So my mother spanked me one time, and I thought that she shouldn't have. So I got one of her letters, and I got me a stamp, and I wrote Chief of Police, Cincinnati, Ohio. And I told him about my father, and I told him my age, and I was looking for him. So the Chief of Police, he wrote me back and gave me my father's address and everything, and said, now, if he don't get in touch with you, you write me back again. So my father got in touch with me, and that summer I said, well, I'm leaving her. I'm going, and I'm going to stay with my father in Cincinnati. I was there for about a week or two, and I called her because we had one phone in the neighborhood, and I said, I'm ready to come home now. She says, no, you want to see your father, you're going to stay up there for the rest of the summer. So she made me stay up there. She says, anything happened? What's wrong? I said, no, I just love you and I want to come home. So I stayed up there that summer. So that next year I says, and he said, well, why don't you stay? I'll buy you a bike and everything. And I shook my head, no, I'm going back home. I'm going back home. So in the meanwhile, I went back to Knoxville. So when I went up there the next summer, Mother said, come on, let's go shopping so I can get you some clothes. I said, I don't want no clothes. I'm not going. She said, oh, you're going. That was my last time. I never went back to Knoxville because he wanted to get back together, get the children together. So, and I didn't get a chance to say goodbye to my friend because I had a little girl. She had polio. And she the only one would play with me because I didn't do the jumping and the running and everything. And I didn't get a chance to tell her goodbye. But I never got a chance to go back to Knoxville after that. They were together, and then they were together from then on after that.
So what kind of work you said your father was a sanitation engineer.
Mm-hmm.
Was your mother working?
Well, yeah, she worked at a laundry. She was a laundress. She worked at a laundry.
And how old were you when you got your first job?
Let's see. I was about 19. I had learned, for some reason, my mother said when she was carrying me, I don't know whether this is true or not, that she wanted a sewing machine, and she started sewing. So it was always, when I was little, I always sewed. And so I don't know if I got it through her with her sewing or what, but because I've never had sewing in school. I taught myself. I'm self-taught.
Did you make your own clothes?
Made my own clothes. I made all drapery. Well, I did go and work in a shop to learn how to put the draperies and everything together. Then I got it on my own. I put my machines in my basement, and I started making my own drapes.
So, what did you do after high school? You said that you wanted to go to college.
I married because they wanted me. I wanted to go south to a black college, and my father said no. I was going to the University of Cincinnati, so I said no, and he never said no to me. So I jumped up and got married because I just didn't want to go to the University of Cincinnati. I wanted to go back south. So I never got a chance to graduate and go to college.
Well, can you tell me about the courtship with your husband?
Well, he was like a friend of mine. Oh, he was somebody I just didn't like. And the fella that I called my boyfriend, we were going to get married when we got out of high school because I was a virgin. I wasn't going to go through all those things that the girls went through. But He didn't want to get married. He said, well, we'll marry when we get out of high school, like we said. So I met this guy. He was older. And he said, well, let's get married. I said, well, then I'd marry because I just didn't want my father. I wanted to go south to school, and he was going to make me go to the University of Cincinnati. So I got married.
How old were you?
18. I was 17, almost 18 when I got married.
And were you able to go south with your husband?
No, he lived there in Cincinnati.
When did he join the service?
Oh, that was in World War II. That was like we were only married maybe a month. We married, and then he had to go away to service. But that was back in 42.
So, was he serving in Europe or in Asia?
Well, that was World War II. They were over in, where were they at? That's when they were fighting the Germans. No, but he never made it overseas.
Okay.
He never made it overseas.
So where did you move with him?
Not him. I remarried again, and I remarried a second guy, and we traveled quite a bit.
So how long did your first marriage last?
I didn't. Oh, maybe a year.
Did you have any kids?
I had a daughter,
What's her name?
Loretta. She's dead. She's deceased. Both of my kids are deceased.
I'm sorry.
I'm the last one that's left in my family. My sisters, brothers, mother, fathers, first cousins, and everything.
Must be hard.
It is. It is. It's very hard. Very hard.
Sorry to hear that.
Yeah, I lost all my sisters after 08. They just started passing and leaving me. But I was with them and everything, so I'm the last one of my generation.
Do you have any grandkids?
No. No grandkids.
Well, thank you for sharing your story with us so we can have it. So how old were you when you remarried?
24.
And how did you meet him?
Well, he was a friend in the neighborhood. I had a son by him.
And did you have your son before or after you got married?
Before I got, but during the time of marriage, my son.
And those are the only two children you had?
Mm-hmm.
And where were you living when you were raising your kids?
Cincinnati.
So when did you, your second husband was also in the service?
Oh yeah, we lived a lot in Michigan.
Okay. So in Detroit or?
Well, it's on the suburbs on the outside of Detroit where they had the space. Mount Clemens.
And so at that time, were you still acting as a seamstress?
Oh yes. That's the way I made my living. Dressmaking.
So what kind of clients did you have?
Oh well, I had a lot of the officers' wives and their second command of the base. I had nice clients, and I never had dressmaking in school.
And was it so the military at that point was integrated, right?
Yeah.
So were your clients like also white and black?
Right. Mostly whites because blacks didn't want to pay me my price. They said I was high, but I wasn't high. But then I had a few that I did for, but it was mostly officers' wives.
So officers' wives. And did you ever feel like, was your husband an officer or was he
No.
enlisted?
He was a career man, but he just couldn't hold his stripes and things.
And how long were you married?
Oh, we were together about 10 years.
So, I guess did he die or were you separated?
No, I separated because he wasn't the right kind of father that I wanted. He'd been in the service. He'd been in some battles, and he drank a lot. And I just didn't want my kids growing up around him. So that's one reason why we came back to Cleveland.
So had you lived in Cleveland before you moved to Michigan?
Mm-hmm.
And you moved to Cleveland initially because your mom moved here?
Right.
Okay. Was anybody else in your family that they moved to?
My sister was here. Mm-hmm.
So when you moved back to Cleveland, what part? Did you move to East Cleveland? Or did you
No, I moved in Cleveland for about, I guess it was wasn't within a year. And then I saved my money because I was getting an allotment check. I saved my money. And then I've been in this house ever since.
Oh, okay.
Mm-hmm.
What year was that? Do you remember what year that was?
Oh, I moved here. It was like in February, March. In 64.
So, and you were already an adult, and you had your son and your daughter.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, can you think back to your earliest memories of East Cleveland and tell me what life was like then?
Well, the people were a lot better than what they are now. But I didn't know. I liked the house because it was small, and I didn't want 2 bedrooms would be enough for me to be a guest bedroom and a bedroom. But the kids were still here. So this was the first house she saw me. And it reminded me of the house that you drew in school. You know, you make the little house with the little windows. And it reminded me of that. So I fell in love with the house. She said, well, don't you want to go see another one? I said, no, I want this house.
And do you remember how much you paid for this house?
I think it was $9,500.
Wow, times have changed.
Oh, yes, yes. Yes, but I did a lot of work here in it.
It's beautiful.
I almost like gutted it.
Yeah. So what did your neighbors look like in 1964?
Well, I had a lot of, it was a mix. It was a mixed neighborhood at that time. And then they all left, and it was just into the African American.
Were there a lot of children?
It was a little few, it was more chill. I didn't know it was this many 2-family houses on this street, but I liked it because it was a dead end, and I had my son, and I know it wouldn't be a lot of traffic, and that's how I fell in love with it. But then after the owners moved out, then they rented it, and then they rented it to some, people that just didn't take care of the property. That's why the property went down.
So, just give us a second while the train goes.
Yeah. And I like that. My son, I make him, if he wouldn't do all his duties and things, then he couldn't sit out here and watch the train. And it was one that passed by, it was around this time, and they saw him, and he would wave at him, so they would blow their horn when they were farther down. So if he was doing anything, he'd run, and then the engineer, he knew the engineer, and because he had his little train set. And then the dining car, they all would wave at him, but if he didn't get his detail done, he couldn't do it. So that's one way. Last time he came before he passed, you couldn't see the train because of all the weeds and everything, and he was really disappointed.
So, when do you think the neighborhood started shifting?
Oh, maybe about 7 years after I left, because they started moving out, and then they started putting the people in, and they were the right kind, they were the wrong kind of. They was just people that didn't care, had no responsibility as far as taking care of a house is concerned. So they the ones, they just like destroyed East Cleveland.
Do you think it was a difference in age or education level?
It was a difference. They hadn't been taught how to take care. Because my father and mother taught us wherever you live, if you don't own it, that's still your house. You take care of it. And they just wasn't taught to take care of places. Because I've heard of one woman saying, oh, it ain't mine, I don't care. Well, see, that's a bad attitude. We weren't raised that way.
And do you think were they people from Cleveland? Do you think it was because you weren't raised in Cleveland? Or?
Well, I think, yeah, I couldn't understand the people from Cleveland. And I think they were from, I would say, the lower neighborhood, say like the ghetto part of the neighborhood. And when they moved in, they brought their ways with them. The people that was here, you know, I just couldn't understand. I've never been raised around those kind of people. But I was always taught whatever environment you're in, you go with that environment, especially if it's a good environment, because I never would go into a wrong environment. And I just never could understand. Because in Cincinnati, we wasn't raised that way. In Knoxville either.
So you feel like it might be a cultural difference?
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And you feel like that's continued, or is that
Look
changed?
across the street. Now, she set some of the stuff up on the light post. But the waste collectors don't go up into your yard. But she left all that stuff there. So it's just the way the people were raised. They weren't taught.
So what are some of your fondest memories of East Cleveland?
Well, I still have fond memories of East Cleveland now, but I just don't like some of the people that's around here. I don't associate with them. But I go to all the meetings and everything. I'm happy with East Cleveland. But like some of the neighbors and some of the people, well, they don't go to the meetings, so they don't know what's going on.
What are some of the things you like doing here? Like,
well, now I'm retired now, so I don't sew anymore. But I just go to the meetings and I go to church, and that's just about it. Because I never was the ones that had a lot of friends.
Well, is there any particular, like you said, your son really liked watching the trains. Was there anything about, like, your kids, like, did your kids go to East Cleveland schools?
No. Now, my son was supposed to go to Shaw High, but he left when he was 17. He wanted to go to New York, so he went to New York. And my daughter, by the time I got here, she had graduated from Mount Clemens High.
Okay.
So she had graduated by the time we got here.
Do you remember any of the shops? Like, people specifically talk about, like, Mary's Sweet Shop. Was there any particular shop that you liked going to, or?
I don't know. They used to have a little grocery store up on the corner that we went to. And they had a movie here when I first moved here. They had a movie. And I don't know. It was something I liked about East Cleveland. When the William brought me over here, it seemed like it was going to be a small community, what I was used to living to in Knoxville, Tennessee. That's why I chose East Cleveland.
Okay. Mm-hmm. So, but still close enough to your mom.
Right, because they were in Cleveland.
Did you have any other relationships with men after your second marriage?
Well, yes, I had some relationships. Mostly people, they didn't stay around here. I mostly dated the fella back from Cincinnati. Mm-hmm. What we were supposed to get married and didn't.
In what ways has the city changed over time? We kind of talked about this, but specifically, like, do you have concrete ways the city's changed over time?
Well, I don't know. It's just the people don't seem to. They're renting, and they just don't seem to care. Because we were raised the way we were raised, wherever you live, that's your home, and you take care of it. But these people are coming to these houses, and they don't care. It's not like mine, and they don't take care of them. They don't just like cross the street. And my father would paint our houses and wallpaper. I mean, we lived like clean, decent. And when I moved to Cleveland, I just couldn't understand people in Cleveland. They just didn't. They wasn't raised like I was raised. They weren't raised like I raised my kids.
So you found that in Cleveland as well as East Cleveland?
Well, yes.
Okay. What about city services? How have city services changed?
Well, it's changed, but because the services, I don't think it's more or less they change. The people just don't take care of their property and do the things that they're supposed to do.
But what about like keeping up the streets? I mean, the city's responsible for that, right?
Well, yeah, but all these empty houses from here down, I keep the paper and stuff. I pick that up myself. But the people that's living in those houses, I don't go and do that.
Mm-hmm.
But well, the services is cut because they cut the services. They cut the services and the police department. It was good before then, but they cut the services.
And how recently was that?
It's been about a year ago.
So when you talk about the change, the people coming in that weren't taking care of the property, did they look different than the people that had been leaving?
Yes, they look like, well, let me see how I can explain. You could tell that they were a poor class of people. That's all I can say. You can tell by the way they dress, the way they act.
So, I think I asked this earlier. Could you tell that there was an age difference? Did it seem like younger people were moving in, or was it older people that were coming in?
Well, when the older people were buying the houses, then they would, I guess, they would retire, and then they would rent the houses out. And this is what the ones that was destroying them, the younger people.
Mm-hmm. So was it like families, like people with small children, or
Mostly with small children or just young people, you know, kind of wild, I would say.
Mm-hmm. All right, we're gonna shift a little bit. How has race or racism impacted you personally?
It doesn't matter to me about the race. It's the way that the people act. I judge people not by the race, but by the way they act and carry themselves.
Mm-hmm. Were you active in the civil rights movement?
No.
No. Do you remember anything about Martin Luther King? Like, do you remember
Yes.
where he was when he was assassinated?
Mm-hmm.
Can you tell me about that day?
That day I was down in the basement, and he had been through here because my daughter, she was very active in all of that. And I was down in the basement when I heard it. And it was a guy, he was a decorator, I was doing work for him. And he said, I guess I better get back on the west side. I said, I think you better get back on the west side also. Mm-hmm. 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 But I never judge people about their race or the color. I judge them by the way they carry themselves, or if the way that I could see that we could get along. Because like my oldest brother used to tell me, he said, you judge a person, he said, you begin to understand them, and like before you take them on as friends, he said, because once you get them as friends and you say no, 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 he said that causes a problem. But I've always had a lot of white friends because I went to gym, I exercised and everything, so I had a lot of friends. It was just where you carried yourself. If you didn't carry yourself, I just didn't like you. And I don't have a lot of people hanging around me, period, now and then either, because they cause problems. And I got funny ways.
Like what?
I carry myself in a certain way. I don't swear, and I don't smoke. And then I did drink a little bit cocktails, but I gave that up. So they don't like me as a person because of the way I carry myself.
Mm-hmm. So your daughter was active in the civil rights movement, but you said you registered to vote when you were 18. You didn't have any problems registering in Tennessee?
No, that was in Cincinnati.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And do you still vote?
Oh, yes. Mm-hmm. I'm still a Democrat.
And so were you ever involved in the Black empowerment movement?
No.
No. So do you identify as African American?
No, because my grandmother was an Indian, and she had 2 children by a white man. So my grandfather was mixed. So I'm a mix. I classify myself as a mixed race.
Do you feel like you're treated any different in the African American community because you're mixed?
No. Well, they look, they used to say, well, where you come from? Because before I gained this weight, I had my eyes was like this. I used to sit and pull them down. And then my hair, I had a lot of hair. I had it cut off. I had a lot of hair. So they didn't like me in a sense because they couldn't understand where I got all this hair from. And I had the funny looking eyes and everything. So that's why I never had too many friends.
Well, I know a lot of African Americans have the experience of going to like a department store and being followed by a store clerk. Did that ever happen?
No, I never had a problem. I had them to ask me what I was. I said, well, the time first it was Negroes, then it was black, now it's African American. So, but I just say, I'm just mixed. And I've had a lot of people, when I was in Michigan, I raised these 2 little white kids, and she says to me one time, she says, it's something about you different, Patsy. What is it? So that's when I went to tell her what my grandfather and his mother was and everything. She said, because I know it's something mixed in you. You're just not all African American. I said, no, I'm not.
So you raised 2 white kids?
Mm-hmm.
Well, tell me about that.
Well, when I was in Michigan, they had this, we lived on the base, and I did sewing, and they were telling me about this little white boy, that he was bad. And she was looking for somebody to keep him because she was a teacher on the base. So I said, well, how old is he? She said, he's around 3 years old. I said, 3 years old? Bad. 3-year-old couldn't be bad. So I said, well, I'm going to keep him. So I called and I talked to her, and I told, because they were putting teachers and civil service people off of the base. So I said, well, now I'm not going off the base. I said, but I'll raise them in my house. So she came by my house and she said, oh, no, you can't raise them here. I said, well, my kids was raised on this. I said, but if you want me to keep him, I'll raise him here. And that's what I did. And now he's married, got grown kids in college, and he don't even communicate with his dad, his mother and father, because his father was of German descent, and they were kind of mean, and he would beat them. He would beat him. And I think he beat him too hard. But I told him, I said, now, Donnie, I said, now, if you don't do what I want you to do, I like to spank my kids with a ruler in their hand. And that's where I did him. I only had to spank him one time. I said, now, if I tell you you're doing wrong and you don't do it, I will spank you. I said, but I don't like to spank. I said, but if I tell you to go to bed or sit in your chair, I've only had to do that once. And he still communicates with me to this day. But he never went back home. After he went to college, he never went back home. And I think it was because of the way his father was beating him.
So did he come back with you to Cleveland when you left?
No, he went away to college.
Okay. So how long were you in Michigan?
Oh, I was in Michigan about 10 years.
Okay. So you had him from the time he was 3 until he went to...
Until he went away. I had came back to Cleveland, and she wanted to come, and I said, no, I'm not going to keep any kids. I wanted to set up my own business. So he was with them for about maybe 2 years before he went away to college.
And who was he with for 2 years? His parents?
Before he went away to college. And he never went back. I didn't know that until he wrote me. I hadn't seen him, so he said, because he did come through here once when he was coming through when he was in college, and I saw him then. And he said, well, Miss Norris, he said, we need to have a family reunion. And I said, well, good. I says, well, I'll get in touch with your mother. And because I had talked to her, and I told her, I said, well, Donnie wants to have a family reunion. He wants to get together. She said, well, Donnie hasn't been back home since he went away to school, to college. I didn't know that. He didn't tell me that. So I never got it together. But I didn't want to tell her. I said, well, he just said, I said, but we'll talk about it later on. But then I knew that I wasn't going to try to get them together because it wasn't going to work.
And you had another child as well?
No, I had my children.
Okay. You said
But he had a daughter. It was
Oh.
a girl. It was a girl.
Okay.
But she still stayed with her mother. But when he went away to college, he never went back.
Okay.
But he kept in touch with me.
And did you ever run into any strangeness about like you being a mixed race woman with a white child?
No, the oldest thing he would say, I know he must have he went to school. They were religious. And he came to me and he said, Miss Norris, he said, I know why you are darker than I am. I said, well, Donnie, why? He said, because they left you in the oven too longer than they did me. And I thought that was cute. I said, well, Donnie, you could be right. Yeah, I stayed in the oven a little longer than you did.
Do you remember the Huff or the Glenville riots?
Yep, I was staying over here then.
Can you talk about that?
Well, I didn't know too much about it, but my daughter, it was some of the, I guess the guards, because she brought a couple of them over here, and I fed them and gave them some water, because she was the kind. Well, she always went to mixed school. She never went to an all black school, and I don't know, but I can understand, you know. But people, like I said, if you don't, I don't know, it was something different about people here in Cleveland. I could never understand the kids. They wasn't raised like I had raised my kids. And it was kind of hard for me to adjust to them. Because like I tell my kids, if you go out there in the street and you see some paper, I said, pick it up. And I said, you tell your friends, do not. I said, say your mother. Don't ever say you. Say, don't throw no paper around the house or in the. So, I mean, they were raised different. It was just something, I don't know. I couldn't. I'm a loner. I don't have too many friends, period. Because I can't understand people.
But, okay.
Keep coming back.
All right, you good?
Yes.
Is it recording?
Mhm.
Okay. So we were talking about the riots, but more generally, do you ever worry about violence in your neighborhood?
No, because usually I go out like in the day, I don't go out in and out at night. If I do, I always go out with somebody. They bring me home, make sure I get into that. And I got well security. I got lights and everything. I'm well secured. They can't get in here.
Well, did you worry about that when you first moved into East Cleveland? Was safety a concern?
No.
So when did that change?
It was like when the old neighborhood, they moved out and they were renting to people. And then that's when it really became a problem with the younger people hanging around, young fellas and things hanging around.
So specifically young men?
Yeah, they hang around. Yeah, they just, I don't know. Whenever you see a group of 2 or 4 or 5 people hanging around, I always become suspicious.
So how has race or racism impacted the city of East Cleveland?
I don't know. It's not so much of that. It's just the people that they're bringing in. They just, I don't know. They don't care.
Well, do you feel like, East Cleveland is between 95 and 98% African American, right?
It is it now at this point, yeah.
Do you feel like East Cleveland as a city gets treated differently than like Shaker Heights or Cleveland Heights, where there's not that large of a population of African Americans?
I think it's because of the type of people that's living here.
So not race-based, but...
I don't think it's race-based. It's the type of people that's moving into East Cleveland.
So do you feel like it might be class-based?
To me, I think it is. To me, it is.
So more of economics.
It's a lower class than Stitter, and they don't care. It's people just don't care. They're renting, and I've heard people say, "Well, it's not mine," so they don't care because it's not theirs. But see, we were taught wherever you live, that's your home, whether you own it or not. You take care of it. You treat it like you're living there. And this is the way I taught my children.
Well, do you feel like that perception has hurt East Cleveland? Like how the rest of Cleveland or how the rest of the region views East Cleveland? Do you feel like it's damaged?
As lower. I think they view us as lower class. Because my friends tell me, oh, they moved out. I say, look, you can pay that high rent on an apartment. I said, but this is my house. I'm not going anywhere. When I leave, I'll be having a place in the ground. I'm not going anywhere. I said, but you can run all you want to. I said, but it's people going to go wherever you are, good and bad. I said, but I'm not going to run. I said, I'm not the kind, I don't like a whole lot of neighbors. I never did. My father always said, always have you one good friend, but have your friends away from where you live. And I've learned that over the years, and I taught my kids the same thing. You can have one or two friends around the neighborhood, but that's it. Have your friends away where you go see them, and they will have to come to see you. But they can't run in and out of your house at all times. And I'm just that kind of person.
So were you ever involved in like a street club or a neighborhood association?
And once we had a street club. When I first moved out here, we had one.
And how effective was that?
Well, then when the people that had moved in around the same time I did left, then it was a different, younger people coming in. And I just didn't like the way, I just can't communicate. I can't understand them. So then that's when the street club broke up.
Okay. So now I have a question about inequality, but let me give you a sense of what I'm talking about. So inequality in its most basic sense means variability. When used to describe relationships, inequality talks about unequal access to political, social, or material resources, opportunities, or rewards based on specific characteristics such as race, gender, age, physical or mental ability, sexual orientation, religion, class, geographic region, or economic status. So we're talking about inequality really broadly. So racism is like one form of inequality. Do you feel like inequality has impacted you personally?
You mean me as a person?
Huh?
No, because I've always chose my friends very wisely. I've never had a lot of them. Mm-hmm. And I chose them whereas I knew they were on the same wavelength that I was. Mm-hmm. So I still don't have a lot of friends anymore.
Did you ever experience sexism?
Amongst?
Like just like employment or like while your husband was in the service at church? Like was there ever any time that you felt like men treated you as less than because you were a woman?
No.
What about ageism? Do you feel like people treat you differently now that you're an elder?
A lot of people don't think I'm elderly.
Do you feel like an elder?
Nope.
What about being a single mother? Do you feel like people ever treated you differently for being a single mother?
Well, no, in a sense, because I was raised with my kids. We did things together, you know. I didn't let them run the streets or play with other kids too much. We did things together as a family. Mm-hmm. So they didn't like me for that, but I never come in contact with them because I raised my kids the way I wanted to raise them, and they didn't. See, I don't like foul language, and I didn't smoke, and I didn't drink. So it was a thing where they thought I was better than they were, but it wasn't that. Like I tell them, I just don't do those things, and I can't be around it. So that's why they sort of set me aside as if I thought I was better than they were, but it wasn't that. I just didn't have those habits, and I didn't be around them.
Well, again, you said when you were growing up, that you didn't lack for anything, that you guys didn't have any, you didn't feel like you were really poor. But do you feel like people might have treated you differently because of your economic status?
No, because we were around in the neighborhood. My mother always made sure that we were in a nice neighborhood. Now that she'd get a big house, maybe she'd have a lady roomer to help her with the house, but she always kept us in nice neighborhoods when we were growing up.
And what about being a Democrat? Do you feel like have you ever been in an area where being a Democrat was less popular?
No, because I try to pick my friends. No.
Okay. So, thinking about the definition of inequality, though, like that you may not have experienced it personally, but do you think it's impacted the city of East Cleveland, especially considering like economic status? Do you think that's impacted East Cleveland?
Yes, because with it's like this girl in this house next door. She bought that house, and she was putting in water tanks and cabinets and things. And I told her, I said, watch who you put into that house. I said, make sure you watch who you put in there. But she didn't. Like the woman across the street, she let her in there. She tore up this house across the street, and she let her in her house. So I just shook my head, and it went down. I don't know. I guess she might have walked away from it, but she spent a lot of money in that house to get it together. But then she didn't watch who she put in there, and they messed it up. Mm-hmm. So it's about the type of people that you pick. I don't think it's a racial thing, because it's good and bad in all races. But it's a thing as a lot of our people haven't been raised right. And they're very destructive. So those are the people you watch out for.
Do you feel like East Cleveland has access to all of the things that other surrounding cities have access to? Do you feel like they have access to the same kinds of federal grants, the same kind of government help?
I don't think so now, because the people that's living here now, and the few that's been here for years, it's not enough of us. So it's not enough to fight for it. And the people that's moving in, they just don't care.
Can you recollect a memory or instance when the community fought for something?
I fight all the time. The woman up the neighbor on the corner, she's been here as long as I have, and she's always asking me, Patsy, take care of it, get them, and but she never goes to the meetings or nothing with me. So, but I still, like I said, I like East Cleveland. I'm not going anywhere. That's why I go to all the meetings and everything, because I just love the little place.
So when you said the meetings, are you talking about the council meetings, school board meetings? Like
no, I don't. I go to the council. I don't go to the school board meetings because I don't have anybody in school,
But the council meetings?
Yeah.
What about the library board?
No.
Like NOAA meetings?
No.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I go to NOAA meetings. Oh yes.
Okay. Can you tell me a little bit about your involvement in NOAA?
Well, we're trying to get the city together, but I don't know. It's too many of the young, worthless people that's moving in here. That's the only thing I can say. Those are the people that's destroying the city, because they don't care.
Do you think they can change?
Yeah, if they change whoever they renting these houses to. Like I always told a girlfriend of mine, I said, but when you rent a house, why don't you go to this person's house and see how they're living? I said, then you would know what they're going to do to your house, how they're going to take care of your house. And I don't think people are doing this. And then they said, they got this law as equal rights, and you can't, these laws and things are coming out, and it's hard to separate.
But the people that are renting, the people that you said that are not taking care of their property, do you think they can change?
Well, they're not taking care of it because the people they're renting to is destroying it.
But the people destroying the property, do you think that they can change? Do you think that they could get involved somehow? Like somehow they might care about things?
The way they've been raised, no. If you've been raised that way, you're raised in filth, and your parents don't teach you or don't do anything for you, it's kind of hard to change. There have been people that change, but very few. You bring your lifestyle with you.
So how do you think East Cleveland moves forward then?
They're going to have to watch the people that they're bringing in. That's the only thing I can say. Because the people they're bringing in, they don't do anything. They don't care. And that's the only way that we're going to move ahead. We're going to have to get rid of some of the, I call them deadbeats, deadheads. Stop bringing them in.
So are you politically active in East Cleveland?
I go to all the meetings and things, yes.
When did you start becoming involved in politics?
Oh, I've been involved in ever since I've been here.
Mm-hmm. Has there been any particular issue that you've worked really hard on?
Not recently.
What about Huron Road?
Well, that my daughter got her training from here in Road Hospital. But I don't know, we need it, and then, I don't know, it was, when they tore it down, I mean, it was going down, period. I don't know if it was like I said, it was the people that was destroying it.
Were you part of the protest to try and get them to stay, or that ended up eventually having them give the city some money?
No, I'm not, when it comes to that, for a while I fought a girlfriend of mine before she died. I become active with her. And then after a while I just said, I'm active with Nora. I like Nora. But I don't know. It's just the people. You only have a few good people, and the rest of them is the ones that don't care, that's destroying it. And in order not to, like I tell a person, if you're going to rent a house to a person, you're supposed to come and see about it. You just don't rent it and take the money. Now, this stuff has been in this yard for a month. Now, if I rented a house, I would come by and look after it and take care of it. And they couldn't do that. But see, if you rent a house and don't come and look at it, or don't see, even if you don't look at the inside of it, look at the outside of it. That don't make sense. See, so they don't take care of their property.
Well, you were here when they changed from the city manager and commissioner to the mayor council form of government, right?
Right.
Did you take part in that debate? Which side did you follow?
Well, I was with this girl. She was very active. And like she was saying, the city is not big enough. We don't need mayors, and we don't need council people. And I went along with that. And now that we have, she said, because the community isn't, she was very active. She passed. And I voted against it. Keep the commissioners. But they wanted to bring them in and bring the mayors. And these council people don't do anything, because the one here, if she would come and see this street, it wouldn't be looking like it's looked. I used to communicate with her. But it got to a point when I would tell her something, if you don't come and look and see what's going on in the street, why should I bother with you?
What ward are you in?
What ward am I in? 11, I think it is. I used to talk to her. I don't talk to her anymore. Because she should come up and down the street, then she would see what's going on. If you're a council person, if you don't come up and down your street and don't know what's going on, then how could you be a council person? I shouldn't have to call you. You should walk up and down the neighborhood and see what's going on.
Oh, I did want to take the opportunity. We keep talking about NOAA, but can you tell me what NOAA stands for?
I don't know what the name stands for, but it's a government. I think it's a government organization.
I think it's actually a nonprofit.
It's nonprofit.
Yeah, I don't think it's government. I think it's community organizing.
Right.
So, okay. I think it's Northeast Ohio Alliance for Hope.
Right.
Okay.
Right.
I just wanted to make sure we had that on tape, because 20 years from now, when somebody sees it, they may not know what we're talking about. So how have the surrounding institutions and cities impacted East Cleveland?
You mean Cleveland?
Like Cleveland or Cleveland Heights or any of the like University Hospital, Cleveland Clinic, Case Western Reserve University, Cleveland State University, how have all of those institutions in other cities, how have they changed or worked with East Cleveland?
Well, I don't. Now that I can't tell you because I don't associate too much with that because I don't be sick, so I don't know too much about the hospitals and everything. But if we could, like I said, it's we gonna have to get some of these people out that's destructive and don't let them in.
Mm-hmm.
That's my biggest part.
Well, what about University Circle? I mean, it seems like they're moving, the new houses the condos they just built for Circle East.
Mm-hmm.
Like, does it seem to you like University Circle is kind of pushing towards East Cleveland?
Well, honest thing I can say, they have better people that care for the city and these houses that they don't own. That's the only thing I can say. It's the people that's destructive.
So you feel like an influx of new people would be helpful?
Get some of these old ones out and put some new ones in.
Okay. So what is your vision for the future of East Cleveland?
Well, I hope it grows. I hope it grows. And it can. But we're going to have to let better people in here and keep some of these people out of here.
So,
it can grow. But it's all about the people are being destructive.
Mm-hmm. Well, can you tell me about other major issues that need addressing in order to better your neighborhood, community, and city?
Well, like I said, it's not so much about the issues and things. It's so much about the people that you're letting in here. Mm-hmm. That's my biggest thing. So, check the background of the people that you're letting in here.
What would you be prepared to do to participate in making East Cleveland better?
Whatever. I don't know. I'm at the point now I don't want to do too much because I told my grandfather I was going to outlive him, and he passed at 100. I got a few more years to go, so I don't want to be too active. I'm at the point where I don't want to be too active like I was in the beginning. But whatever I see or they ask me if I can help, I will.
So this isn't on the list, but I'm interested in your response to the women that were murdered last month. How do you feel about that?
Well, I feel there had to be some of these people that they're bringing in here. I don't think they were on a level, I say, like me. They were like used to a loose life.
The women were?
That's what I'm thinking. Now, I could be wrong, but I'm thinking that they were used to hanging around, having a good time, drinking and smoking, and they just got wrapped up in a sick man. Because you have to watch and pick your friends accordingly. And I noticed these young girls, they don't. They just walk up and let anybody talk to them, start talking. I wasn't taught that, and I teach my kids, you don't let strangers come up and start talking to you. Mm-hmm. And that's one thing that's probably what brought that about. You can be too friendly. And they into a lot of drugs and things, and that's not helping the situation either. It's
I don't think we know their backgrounds. I don't think that we know that they were necessarily...
Well, they call marijuana, that's just like a regular cigarette to them. That's not supposed to be a drug, but that is a drug. Mm-hmm. So you have to be careful who you talk to. I don't walk down the street. Somebody call, I might say hello and goodbye, and that's it as far as it goes. But you just can't talk to strangers, and that's what these young girls do. Mm-hmm. So. You cannot talk to strangers because they look good and they talk well. That don't mean that they have a good heart. And this is what these girls do. Because I was raising my little niece, and I'd tell her, when you go to school, you come home, don't you talk to anybody. She see the man out there working on car, hi, mister. And I said, did not tell you you don't speak, you don't talk to anybody that you don't know. So they got that over friendliness, which they shouldn't have. Because you can't judge a book, like you say, you can't judge a book by the cover. You got to get in there and read it. And you cannot look at a man and say he's okay, because you don't know the inside of him.
So in closing, in all your wisdom, do you have anything to offer people when they look at this, 6 months from now or 20 years from now? Is there anything that you want them to remember about your life or living in East Cleveland?
Well, only thing that I can say, I used to could talk to the kids, but now I don't talk to them. You see them on the street, hi, how are you? Because they get offended. They don't want to listen to you. And I was always taught, you get your experience from someone that's been through it, and you can talk to them. But these kids, they don't want you to talk. Oh, she old. She don't know what it's all about. But I'm old because I listened and I learned. And until they learn that, it's going to be bad. And they're not getting it from home. The parents are not training these kids like they're supposed to. They have them. They let the TV. They let the computers. They let all of that. They don't have hours where you sit down with your child. And this is what's just happening. Parents aren't being parents anymore. And you're going to have to do it, otherwise it's not going to change.
I mean, do you feel like that's happening in other places in the United States?
Yes, it's not only here. It's not only here. It's not only here. They're just letting these computers and all these gadgets just taking over the kid's life. And that's not good. You have to have some control over that. Because, I mean, that's controlling them. You aren't. Just like, now they're letting kids take their phones to bed. They have TVs in their bedrooms and all of that. A bedroom is supposed to be for sleeping. Because like I went to my father, he remarried and had some kids. I said, why are you letting them have TVs in their bedroom? I said, when they go to bed, they're supposed to sleep. I said, they don't need that. Have the TV down in the family room where you know what they're watching. I said, because they got some programs on there that's out of sight. I wouldn't even watch. I didn't know they had all that stuff on there. I said, but you can't do that. And this is what's happening. The parents going to have to turn around and start taking control over these kids and watch see what they're watching. They just can't have that 24/7 hours. They would telephone up their ear. See, all that, it don't make sense to me.
Well, do you have any words of hope?
Yes, when the parents start parenting. That's my hope.
Brandon, did you have any questions?
I had one or two questions and just clarification. Patsy, thanks. 3 times is a charm here. It's been quite a journey with us. We are in Ward 2, and NOAA stands for Northeast Alliance for Hope. And it is a nonprofit. It's not a government or organization. It is for community organizing. It's to actually build better, stronger community by bringing the information and getting residents involved in the city, in government and in the city. For clarity, I just wanted to follow up on your husbands. Were both your husbands military guys? Okay. And they were both?
Not only one was, but he wasn't a career. His only one was a career soldier.
Okay. Which one was in World War II?
They both was in World War II. But the one, my last husband, he was still in the service.
Okay, so
he was a career. He was a career man.
Now, I may know this from other conversations that we've had, but if you could go into some of your, when you were doing drapes, furniture, can you tell us a little bit more about that and how your clientele kind of shaped out and who your customer was and why?
Well, it was a lot of people, like they were used to buying stock drapes. They couldn't understand my price. And it was the only one, I got the professional in all races. They understood. Some had decorators and some hadn't. This is how I was able to build my clientele up. Word to mouth. I put out cards. I did not advertise because I didn't want to spend up a lot of time with the customer. Because, see, I sold and then I made my drapes. I did all my own sewing. Couldn't get nobody in here to help me that would do like I would tell them to do and wanted to do good work. So mostly my work was referrals. And I had some darn good customers all over the city. But that's the way I got them. And like I tell them, you have your price, because when I give you my price, there's no argument. I know what my price is. I knew what all the companies and what all the people was charging. I said, but I can't do it to you for free, so don't give me an argument. And that's the way I got it. But I had some very known people around here I did work for.
Okay. And what did your customer look like?
All races, all types, all professionals. Mostly my better customers were all professional people.
Okay.
Were they women?
Women. Yeah, I had some men. Mm-hmm. And I used my house as, I let them come in to see what I could do so they didn't have to question me. And then I would take pictures. And some of the people I didn't think was going to let me take pictures of their houses. And they said, Patsy, aren't you going to take a picture? Yeah. I didn't know, the position you're in, I didn't think you wanted me to take a picture. But everybody I did work for wanted to be in my book. Oh, I got books and books of pictures of work that I did. I was happy. Yeah. And I did it practically all by myself because nobody, they wanted to come in. Like, I like to work early in the morning and late at night where there's no telephone and there's no noise. Well, I'd get to work and tell them, okay, you do it. I go down 2 hours later, and it was like they did nothing. I said, goodbye. So I just started doing it all myself. I had a friend that we were raised up together, and he passed, but he would come over and help me with certain things like the table and getting the lamps and the cutting, and he worked with me for years. And I loved it, and they loved me. I had customers, and there's one time I was going away, and I told a woman, I said, well, I can't make your drapes for the holiday. You have to get you someone else. She said, that's all right, Patsy. When you get back, let me know. I'll wait for you. So that's just the way they were. And I loved my work. And I would show them how to open and close the drapes and everything. I said, because when I come back, I want those drapes hanging, just like I put them up there. And this one time, this man, me and her was talking, and he went and he yanked and opened that drape. I said, oh, no, you don't do that to my drapes. His wife said, I told you the way she was. And he looked back at me. I said, oh, no, you handle that drape like I tell you. I said, I was so angry. He yanked the drapes open, and I'm saying, oh, no. I said, those are mine till I get out this house, and you do not do that. She said, I told you how she was. I said, you take your time, you open these drapes, and you close. And I said, you sit them and you adjust them. She called me up. She said, wow. He said, wow. She said, I tried to tell you the way she was, but you wouldn't listen. So that's just the way she is about her work. And when she come back, she want to see it looking good. And I laughed. He was old lawyer, too. But I did. I loved my work. I taken pride in it.
Now, I know you did drapes, but what else did you do?
Well, I did the whole tree. I did drapes, bedspreads, pillows, that go along with it. Because for a while I was doing in my off season, like January and February, that's usually the time that the drapery work is over. Don't pick up to March. And then like in July and August, people really didn't get back into it to September. Then I would go back into my dressmaking. Oh, I did. I had some customers, they almost cried when I stopped. And I was never taught. I never went to school. I was self-taught.
And you did most of your work out of your house, or did you have a shop?
No, I got my shop down in my basement. I had all power machines. I worked in my own basement. Yep. Did it for about almost 30 years.
What did you do with your business when you quit?
Oh, the machines is down in the basement. I can't get nobody that could, you figure, well, I could train somebody. But these young girls don't want to work. They don't want to work. If it's something easy where they can in and out, they'll do it. But they don't want to work, so I never was able to train anybody. So I just did it all myself. But I enjoyed it. I had some good customers.
Now, I know the last time we spoke, we were discussing doing something at the Helen S. Brown. How did that?
Well, it never turned out. I don't know. It got to the point as I just don't think, people just don't want to do work that's work. Yeah, you're working. You're sitting down, you're using your hands and everything. They want to do something where they can make it and make big money in a minute. You can't do it that way. People don't want to really work to make money. They want something that's easy, and this is not easy. Because I even had a fellow to hang my drapes, and he would get up there and throw them up, wouldn't work with them. So I did my own hanging. I hung my drapes. I had a guy to hang the rods, and I'd hang my drapes. Because, see, you have to play. You got to please the customer. And like I tell them, you see anything wrong with them now, let me know, because I'm not coming back. I said, I'll stay with you. You see anything wrong, but don't call me back and say, oh, well, I forgot to show you this. I said, because I'm not coming back. I don't have the time. I had no problems with them. I did some drapes for this. I didn't know who they were. The Receptors. You ever heard of them? He the one to do all these high rises, all these here, Cincinnati, and Columbus. While I was going to the gym with his wife, I didn't know who she was. I mean, some of the women out there, they had diamonds on the name with the diamonds, and she was dressed just common, just like I was. And then we just had started talking. So this one time she said, well, we're getting ready to move. She said, we're moving from a house into an apartment. I'm saying, well, how you gonna like that? She said, well, yeah. She said, well, will you make my drapes? And I told her, yes. So then she told me, she said, well, my husband want to get a decorator. Would you work with a decorator? And I said, yeah, doesn't matter to me. You know that big high rise up there on Cedar in South Woodland? That's his building. So when I'm going over there, we left the gym and we went to the house, and I'm saying, like, what apartment are you in? She said, oh, we're in the penthouse. And I'm saying, the penthouse? We go up there. So then I was at the bank, and I was telling this guy from the bank, I said, I got this woman, I said, and he said, do you know who they are, Patsy? I said, no, she's just my friend. He said, they're the Receptors. He said, they're not just rich. He said, they're filthy rich. He said, every high riser here, Columbus and Cincinnati, him and his brother Bill, them in charge of them. She never act that way, and she never was. And that's who, when I met her, we became very good friends. I said, well, I didn't know who they was. He said, well, you know what? I said, she's just a friend. I said, but she didn't wear the diamonds. So some of those women, they had big diamonds. Because I went to this one that they had just opened out there by Richmond Mall. And come to find out, we became very good friends. And they were like he said, I said, filthy. I said, what you mean, like billionaires? He said, well, do whatever you want to. He said, but every high riser from here, Columbus and Cincinnati, him and his brother's in charge of it. And she told me when she come to this country, they were poor. They didn't have anything. But she was a beautiful person. She didn't let that go to her head. So I've worked with some quite wealthy people.
Well, thank you very, very much for this opportunity. We appreciate your patience with us coming back.
And I'm glad it's taken so long.
No, you have wonderful stories, and you're a very, very important part of this project. So thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for choosing me.